Okay, people. So I was giving a long monologue, which apparently God didn't want you to hear, because uh, I thought they were beautiful stories, but I've told them before. And then I realized, oh, looks like my computer had frozen. And apparently, for 10 minutes, I was monologuing to myself. So there's that. Okay, so I am going to speak less and allow the video to go more because, yeah, apparently God doesn't want me monologuing so much. Back to the discussion.
We'll talk about that. Isn't Christianity exclusivistic? And we can talk about, why I have this concern about EO, institutional exclusivity specifically. We can talk through this. But just to explain a little bit, one of the things I said with Jonathan is I do hear different perspectives from Eastern Orthodox Christians today. And so one of the many things I hear that is really hard to make sense of when people say, well, we already told Ortlund our view and he doesn't accept it or something like that. It's like, I've heard so many different views. On the one hand, I've sat down with priests and been told you are a Christian without qualification. On the other hand, I've done debates with priests and apologists from the Eastern Orthodox community, and it's been pretty absolute. No, you're not. You're headed for hell. And then I've got what is most common is something in the middle of that, where it'll be whether it's about C.S. Lewis or Tolkien or me, it'll be something along the lines of, like even in my discussion with Jonathan, it kind of came out. Protestants are kind of like Buddhists in some way or another. You may be a Christian in the colloquial sense of the term, and then today you hear a lot of language about Eastern Orthodoxy is the fullness of the church. It's where we know salvation happens, but we're not passing judgment elsewhere and so forth in this kind of language. And so when I hear these different perspectives, my approach has been, let's go back historically to look at these conversations and figure out which of these multiple views is most historically authentic. And so that's where I think something like the Synod of Jerusalem, specifically responding to Protestant beliefs, is a fair place to look. We go back on the Filioque. So the Filioque clause is one of our disagreements. And so I think it's fair to go back.
Don is very, very happy to know that I will not be speaking as much this time.
To the 9th century, where you have pretty explicit classification of this as heresy. Photius himself is calling it a blasphemy. You've obviously got the Fourth Council of Constantinople. There's this categorization of this particular doctrine as damnable heresy, and that's pretty consistent there from at least the 860s onward, I would say. I mean, it's pretty bracing. All the rhetoric is applied to the Filioque, just as the previous heresies of the 7 ecumenical councils, as perceived, were also addressed. So it's like Filioque is the new Arianism and the new Sabellianism and this kind of rhetoric. So I'm looking back historically and I'm saying, and then you find, as I've gone through in my videos, I won't repeat all the statements about just the very absolute language about specifically Protestants and Catholics as cut off. Now, one clarification, cut off from salvation. One clarification is I do understand, and I've always said this in my book and in videos, that doesn't mean omniscience about every individual. So I understand you're going to find lots of people who say, well, we're not making the final judgment. Maybe there are exceptions. But I think the basic idea here is, and the concern, and it is a concern about what is true, not just what is mean, is the classification of Christians outside of Eastern Orthodoxy, such as Catholics and Protestants, Roman Catholics, let's say, to be clear. And the classification of these groups seems very clear historically. I mean, from the Filioque disputes prior to the Great Schism.
So I'll tell you what I think represents Orthodox Judaism. We believe that the vast majority of people have a share in the world to come. That's just a categorical belief we have. But when we look at the vast majority of people, it seems very hard to understand how that is true. Because I could certainly make a very good argument for why God should damn me. Well, I certainly have a lot of sins to my name that I think are damnable. At the same time, like, I am not so delusional as to think I am the worst of sinners. I honestly will say, if you know every detail about my life, I don't think if there was a GoPro on my entire life, I don't think I have ever done something that rises to the level of a felony. Misdemeanors, probably yes. Felony, no. Maybe a few things are skirting that. But worst of sinners, like class A felony, oh no. Never done nothing. No. And I mean, you have to be careful where you look. I mean, I'm a social worker. I see people in a lot of the worst places in the world, in the worst conditions of the world, and they come to me often with their greatest sins. So I I definitely have a biased take on the world, but um, yeah, so that's like, I don't know how God is saving a majority of the people. I do believe in reincarnation, or transmigration of souls, but I don't know how that works and how God does things. And I take the Book of Job very seriously. So that.
Up through the early modern era, it seems like a pretty absolute, they are cut off, they are off the Ark of Noah, even if you'd allow for some maybe exceptions in individual cases, or even if you say we're not going to absolutely claim omniscience about individuals, the classification of these groups is clear. And as I said, I don't think the language could be stronger. I wouldn't know how to make it stronger. And so today, then you hear a little bit more, my perception is, when I read like the contemporary Eastern Orthodox theologians, it seems like there's been a real softening and a real loosening and a real opening up more in an ecumenical direction, though the older hardline view persists. And so I'm seeing multiple things today. And even in the reaction of Orthodox Christians to my dialogue with Jonathan, I hear these different responses. So I'm looking at it, and my position and my concern is there is a softening, there is a change, and that we need to really face squarely the language that we find in history for the Filioque and for Protestant doctrines and for these classes of people over here in the West. So that's a little bit of background, just kind of my essential position. Let me pause so I'm not talking too long and say, do you want to start here interacting with this? What do you want to say in terms of your position here?
Yeah. Well, there's a whole sort of web of things there, right, that are all interrelated. I think on a broad level, I think it's important that you use the word rhetoric, because I think part of the issue in some cases, so you are very validly seeing in those centuries an escalation of rhetoric, for sure, right? For sure, no doubt, right? And I would even add, this is much less well known in the West, but if you look at the rhetoric surrounding the Council of Chalcedon and all the way up through St. Justinian, the whole issue with the schism of what are now called the Oriental Orthodox churches, you find similar kind of rhetoric there, right, back and forth. So you could even add that, right, too, right, if you wanted to. So agreed about the rhetoric. The question then is, how much change in substance is there to the view accompanying?
Hello, Mr. Man. Sure.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. I was monologuing for about 10 minutes, and then I discovered that God didn't want my monologue to be broadcast. So for anybody thinking of going back and listening to my previous but the beginning of this stream, it might not be worth it, because apparently it wasn't worth it. How much of this have you listened to so far, and what do you think?
All of it. All of it. I
you
2x'd through the whole thing like light speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to do a commentary video with me? This is my first time through.
Sure, we can do a little bit of a commentary. It's interesting, because you and I mean, we've both talked with Stephen DeYoung quite a bit. I've never talked with Gavin publicly, but I've talked with him privately. We've made commentary videos and that sort of thing. And it's very interesting comparing and contrasting this with his Gavin's recent conversation with Ortlund, or not Gavin's recent conversation with Pezzo.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I mean, do you want to spoil it, or should we wait?
Do I want to spoil it? First off, Stephen DeYoung has a lot better composure and fact recall than Peugeot does. And is much, I felt like this conversation went a lot better. Now, it obviously has the benefit of coming second, right? And Stephen DeYoung can watch the Peugeot conversation, learn from it, and then affect his behavior accordingly. But I think that Gavin showed a lot of appreciation for just Stephen DeYoung's honest ability to give clear, precise, nuanced, evidence-supported answers to Gavin's questions.
Did you see Matt C's Matt C talking about with Paul Vanderklay about Father Stephen on Twitter? Did you see that tweet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I kind of want to pull it up. So Matt C and PVK were going on about how you can really tell that Father Stephen has an MDiv from Westminster. Like, he has the chops, and Matt C, which is funny. First of all, you know that Bruce is now Eastern Orthodox.
Bruce, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shocker. He was the only person willing to defend Calvinism on my channel. Like actually, although I never actually had him. I
think I interacted with him a couple times, right? And he call me not a Christian and stuff like that.
I mean, Bruce is a nice guy, and the fact that he's undergoing this catechumen thing, especially, I mean, he's been a little public with how his wife feels about that.
How does his wife feel about that? At least what he said publicly.
His wife wonders if where her assurance of salvation is if now he who was an elder at a Presbyterian church is now moving them into the Orthodox Church.
Is she excited to go along on this journey, or is she being dragged somewhat reluctantly?
That question doesn't make you like she's basically saying to him, okay, you were wrong about that. You're telling me you were wrong about that. Where is my assurance of salvation?
That's a good, I mean, yeah, okay. So I followed you all these years thinking that, you were guiding me, and now you tell me where you had been guiding me was wrong. So why should I listen to you this time?
Yeah. That's a good question.
And it's similar to Gavin's question for the Orthodox folks. Yeah. I mean, the obvious real question lurking in my mind is like, all right, Gavin, have the same conversation with me.
But Sam, he doesn't see the fruits of the Holy Spirit in your life.
Maybe if he got to know me better, he would.
Maybe. So Zach actually said something pretty I think is true. Something that keeps coming up that bothers me is Gavin is very obsessed with the question of whether he is considered a Christian because he thinks Christians are saved and non-Christians are damned. Yeah, that's why I always tell the story about the two Mennonite young women. Like, when that's what you teach, and this is one of the reasons, I mean, it is a serious reason for anti-Semitism, is when that's what you teach, and then you encounter Hasidic Jews like my rabbi and his wife, you either have to vilify them incredibly, or you have to second guess your entire understanding, because
or option 3, completely separate trees from fruit. Basically, that salvation is just purely a gift, and that it has almost no effect on a person.
Right.
And so a person,
the blasphemy of common grace, I call it. Yeah.
Yeah. And say that there is no connection to how someone behaves and, their salvation status.
Or become a dispensationalist. And frankly, I think that's one of the reasons. So especially Christians who go visit Israel and see the faithfulness of Jews who don't believe in Jesus. That's one of the things that makes them happen. If other people who are knowledgeable, especially Bush Concepts, I believe you're Daniel that we were talking to before, who's a Eastern Orthodox apologist. It would be nice to have.
Can I say something about the Mormon question?
Yes, please.
How about this? Mormons are Christians.
Are they?
I would say so.
But they don't believe in the Trinity, Sam.
Oh, wait a minute. What? You have to believe in the Trinity to be a Christian? Oh, shoot. So, but I mean, they're certainly a very quirky kind of Christian. I would agree that they're perhaps one of the most unique and divergent or uncorrelated forms of Christianity that's ever existed. I think that is true, but they understand themselves as Christian. And clearly, just from like a sociological point of view, they're making Christian noises because they inherited those things from the Christian past, as much as Joseph Smith might have innovated or gone in new directions.
Well, I see myself as a Christian. You don't see me as a Christian.
That's a good question. In what sense do you see yourself as a Christian?
I believe in the coming of the Messiah.
Okay, well, yeah, but you don't think that Jesus is that Messiah.
Oh, Jesus is definitely not that.
All right, well, then you're not a Christian. All right,
but that's what the word Christian means.
all right, how about you're not a Jesus Christian?
I'm not a Jesus Christian, but I'm a Christian.
Okay, but the Mormons are Jesus Christians, right?
Oh, they're Jesus Christians, but then the Muslims are Jesus Christians.
No, crud. You're right. So, because they do think that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah. They do.
They do.
Yeah, they call him Al-Misa or something like that. Isa Al-Misa, right? Wouldn't that be
Messi? Yeah,
Messi, something. Yeah. Anyway, the Arabic word for Messiah.
Yeah.
But there is I would say that Islam and Mormonism are sort of weird, interesting test cases. But especially because they introduce new scripture. Both of them do that and claim new access to new revelation. That it tests the category in ways that other things don't. And so I understand why. But from a judge them by their fruits, I mean, my goodness, Mormonism does a good job of instilling both its beliefs and its values consistently to at least a very high percentage of its adherents.
Yeah,
better than most Christian traditions,
and better than I would say the majority of Jews.
Yeah, and that I've never met a Mormon who wasn't an extremely nice person, and not just a nice person, but seemed touched in their character and their behavior by the teachings that Jesus promoted.
Yeah.
Right. Not just like a generic, nice, Chinese person who doesn't know almost anything about Jesus or something like that. Like they seem uniquely influenced by the teachings of Jesus in their life.
I mean, Bush Concepts, if you want to jump on, my only thing with EO apologists is I demand that you not be an ortho bro, and my definition of ortho bro is somebody who hasn't actually been baptized in a Orthodox church. Like if you're an internet Orthodox guy, you're definitely an ortho bro.
Beware. It's not like Jacob and I do not know how to handle such orthodoxy.
Oh, there's definitely that. But Metropolitan Saba, I hope, is going to be he's given me indications that he's going to use the whip hand a lot more than I gave him credit for, and I would love to see more and more of that. I mean, Jay Dyer being told to stand down, that's more than anybody I know is able to. Frankly, if an Orthodox rabbi was willing to say to me, "Hey, Jacob, you need to shut down that channel," I would gain so much respect for him. I mean, I don't see how that would. If Chabad officially, if Agudat Hasidei Chabad, or even the chief rabbinate of Israel, like if it was a rabbinic court that I respected enough, told me something like that, I would actually submit. But yeah, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say I appreciate that some other people's channels are under authority in a way that you and I kind of aren't. Although you just said that a good rabbinic court might be an authority that you would recognize.
I mean, I have said this multiple times. I have received permission to continue this channel from a rabbinic decisor, actually multiple rabbinic decisors who have told me that what I am doing is not forbidden. Now, that's a very low standard. That is an incredibly low standard. To find an Orthodox decisor who says what I am doing is not forbidden, that's a very low
But it is forbidden
standard.
for Jews to evangelize, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, so you're
Oh.
not in the category of that.
Oh, if I were evangelizing, what I would be doing is definitely forbidden. To the degree that I am doing what some people accuse me of doing, then what I am doing is forbidden, and I repent and recant, and God have mercy on my soul. Chezi, like, so this is the weird thing. So Chezi himself, he has an official relationship with Rabbi Shirky, who is a recognized decisor in the Zionist camp. And if I had been interested through Chezi, we could have been officially part of that organization. But I will not submit to Zionists. And I only found out way later that if I had done something like that, Father Stephen wouldn't.
But don't you know, Jake, the Muslim metaphysician won't talk to us because of our blazing Zionism.
Did you see my video about Jake and the fact that despite the fact he will not apologize to me, he definitely needs to?
No.
Okay. So there's this video of him talking with Pikachu, Hagachu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says in the middle of the live stream, "Why are you trying to get me in trouble with the Moroccan government?" And I pulled that clip, and I'm like, was it me?
That's exactly what you and I said. So what people don't know is once upon a time, Jacob and I were live streaming.
Yes.
I believe I was like fixing my Porsche in the background, which probably didn't help the situation.
Yeah.
But I was doing what needed. I wasn't doing that to show off. I was just, my car needed to be fixed. Okay. And you and I were talking about how we feared if Jake moved to Morocco.
Yeah.
Because he had gotten married to a Moroccan girl and was going to move to her family, I believe.
Well, I believe he lives in Morocco now.
Yeah, that he would find a level of censorship from the Moroccan government that he wouldn't if he stayed in America, and that this wasn't something to be taken lightly, and that these sorts of governments are capable of stuff that was probably outside his realm of understanding, and he didn't fully understand what he was getting himself into. Now, of course, his official line is that he cut us off because of our flagrant Zionism, but I think it was because that we were touching on a soft spot in his heart that was more related to his choice to move to Morocco.
Well, that's the funny thing. The government of Morocco is one of these Zionist
Abrahamic Accord signing, yeah.
So like I was warning him, like my level of non-Zionism would not be permitted in Morocco.
Non-Zionist Jew warns Muslim apologists not to move to Zionist Muslim country for fear of his own free speech abilities, and is cut off by Muslim apologist after being accused of being a Zionist.
Yeah. And he said I slandered him, and then he's having this discussion with Hagachu, and he's like saying, "Why are you trying to get me? It's really easy for you from Texas to criticize me here in Morocco. Why are you trying to get me into trouble with the Moroccan government?" And it's like, oh, I told you I would apologize.
The chickens have come home to roost.
Yeah. So somebody kind of gets what I was saying now.
And the other thing is we weren't criticizing Jake. We were trying to warn him.
Yeah.
Like we knew he was listening, and we were trying to warn him.
Yep.
For his own sake, out of concern for his person.
I have a soft spot in my heart, especially because he has multiple sclerosis, which runs in my family.
I've no ill will towards Jake. If Jake wanted to bury the hatchet, I would happily be friends and keep talking with him tomorrow.
I do have to say he said certain things about Hamas and October 7th and stuff, which make my blood boil a little bit. But I believe he's sincere, and because of that, like I understand where he comes from, right?
Yeah. All right, Stephen DeYoung and Gavin.
Yes.
You play wherever you're at, and then that can spur us to talk about something.
Okay. Well, let me put Is this good? Is this better? Which
That's good. Yeah.
this is good. Okay. So we're still pretty at the beginning. They're just starting to talk about exclusivity in the Orthodox Church.
That change in rhetoric, right? So is it substantially the same view, but due to historical circumstances, the rhetoric gets cranked up to 11, or is the rhetoric reflecting changes in views as the rhetoric changes, and to what degree? And there's a lot of room in the middle there between.
Just to make clear, I think Father Stephen is able to explain to Gavin so much better because he has the academic background as a Reformed endive, right?
Although, I mean, it should be noted, Pajot grew up Baptist. And
but that's not the same.
His dad got a PhD from Wheaton or something, I think. And part of the reason why Pajot lived in Chicagoland for a while was his dad was getting a PhD at Wheaton. And so I have to imagine at least some of that rubs off. It's not the same thing as getting a degree yourself. But honestly,
it's not the same thing as for a Baptist. Like Baptist theology is very different from the systematics of a Reformed.
But Gavin is Baptist.
But Gavin he's Reformed Baptist.
Yeah,
but there's a big difference.
Still technically Baptist. I mean,
there's a big difference between Reformed Baptist and Southern Baptist, which is the fact I know this difference.
But Gavin Gavin does stuff with Wheaton College, the same place where Pajot's dad got the degree. Like they're in the same theological waters. Like I don't think that Pajot.
I didn't feel like Pajot was speaking to Gavin in the same language.
Well, here's another thing that I'll criticize Pajot for is like one of the things that he went after one of the things that Pajot went after Gavin for multiple times was that Gavin was like appealing to his Protestant audience. It's like, yeah, but so what? I mean, Gavin's audience is, I don't know, 3/4, 2/3, something. I'm just guessing Protestant. And so when he speaks on his channel, that's the main obvious audience that he has in mind. But when Pajot's on his channel, he uses us and we a lot, right, in his back and forth videos before they talked and even when they were talking. And when Pajot uses us and we language, it's always we Orthodox, us Orthodox. And so Pajot's videos were like explicitly, hey, we us Orthodox, yada, 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 yada. And so why is it okay for Pajot to cater his videos to the Orthodoxy, but it's improper for Ortlund to cater his videos to his predominantly Protestant audience? Like I thought that was very hypocritical of Pajot, and he did that a couple
I don't think okay. So this is the thing. I think Pajot views it in a very similar way as I do, whereas when you're a Protestant, right? So Protestants, as a Protestant, you have to believe that there are saved people who are part of the small c Catholic Church who are not part of your church, particular church, because if not, then there's 1,500 years of no, or at least 1,000 years of no Christians in the world. Correct?
Yep.
Whereas I think for me and for Pajot, I talk about us and we, and I mean Jews, right? But that in no way makes it sound like I am somehow excluding. This is difficult, but I don't think Pajot was criticizing that it's necessarily bad to speak to your own, but
I felt like
it's different. You speak differently to your own than you speak, and I do. I mean, I freely admit it. I speak to Jews in different language than I do to Gentiles because I think most Gentiles have a hard time understanding Jewish stuff.
We all calibrate our audience or our language and are familiar to our audience. But I felt like Pajot thought he was scoring some sort of zinger against Ortlund by pointing out that Gavin primarily talks to a Protestant audience, as if that would like I don't know when points in Pajot's favor for even pointing that out while he's using the us and
No,
we
I
as
think
orthodox.
that was more of an explanation. I mean, I saw how you can listen to Pajot's video where he said, I think he has other motives, ulterior motives, right? Or other motives or something like that. And Gavin certainly took that to mean I have bad motives. Whereas when I first listened to it, and I still think when Pajot said it, he meant, oh, his motives are to kind of defend
Prevents Protestants from converting to Orthodoxy.
Yes.
Which I do think is partially true.
I think it is true.
But I also don't feel like Gavin would even like say that. It's like, okay, right. Congratulations, Captain Obvious there. So I feel like I felt Peugeot was a little strange and inconsistent on that point, if I'm honest, and unfair against Gavin.
It didn't seem for me. I thought it was more of an explanation than some sort of recrimination. Okay. I thought he was saying to Orthodox people, and I have to say, from everything I have heard, and I get this among Noachites as well, like there's a lot of people who don't want to leave Protestantism because they feel that it is some sort of besmirching their ancestors and their family and their church, etc.
Well, I think that's a perfectly natural thing to feel. From any sort of conversion from one tradition to another is in some way at least a condemnation of a minor kind, if not a major kind, of your ancestors.
So the only Jewish rabbi that I ever found who was committed in his Judaism and believed that Christianity was true, his name was Isaac Lichtenstein. He wrote a book. He never got baptized because he said, I am not going to get baptized until the entire Jewish community does. And I have profound respect for that. And frankly, I might have a similar view if I actually believed Christianity was true. Like that, if
explain that more.
If let's say somehow tomorrow I became convinced that, let's say, Father Stephen is correct and I should get baptized into the Orthodox Church, I would still have a reticence in actually personally getting baptized until there was a Jewish community that got baptized with me.
Interesting. That's interesting. And the Apostle Paul also kind of has similar feeling. And
Stephen talks about this.
Yes.
I'm going to be vague because I have to. I know of Jews. I have been in communication with Jews who have positions within Christian churches that you wouldn't actually believe me if I even told you, right? Who feel like, I mean, they feel very torn in that they're like, well, yeah, I am a Jew, I am a Christian, I am a Jewish Christian, right? And like, I really shouldn't be eating pork, right? Mm-hmm. Because they have that view, and like it becomes a whole thing of like, okay, you are a Jewish Christian who's the leader of a Gentile Christian church, right? So what do you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, yeah, it's look.
You're starting to understand Paul of Tarsus better and better every day, Jacob.
Oh, I often, I typed it out this morning, like, Paul of Tarsus, Martin Luther, Joseph Smith, Jacob Federecci were all not very original thinkers and deeply sinful people.
Amen. On that note, yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
0 and 100, right? So it's important to disambiguate that. And I mean, I with my background, I can even come up with some examples of Reformed confessions, right? So I grew up with the three forms of unity. The Belgic Confession says the Pope is the Antichrist. The Heidelberg Catechism says that the Papal Mass is a damnable idolatry, right? But I also know enough from my background to know that, Ursinus wrote a commentary on the Heidelberg Catechism, that there are a bunch of important distinctions, like the Pope being the Antichrist is about the office, not the person. And right. So there are all these distinctions, but those distinctions aren't put into writing in the doctrinal standard. They get signed off on by officers, right? They're under.
I thought this was an excellent point by Stephen DeYoung, that he is saying that, because one of Gavin's big things, both in his conversation with Peugeot and DeYoung, was that, man, these Council of Jerusalem, blah, 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 blahs, right? These Orthodox Synod statements are really pretty harsh and really pretty mean to the Protestants and extremely black and white and in and out, and golly goodness, isn't that kind of mean of them? And Stephen Young's like, well, these CRC documents, right? He knows this from his deep CRC background.
And the Westminster the Westminster is still like,
that's still the Presbyterian thing. Yeah.
And it still says, the original says, and many churches still have it, that that son of perdition, the Pope, right?
Yeah. Right. And he says, but you need to understand that in the full context of what it means about individual Catholics, etc., and that isn't in the documents themselves.
Right. And there's a level of rhetoric that was being used at the time because of the thing. And that doesn't, you, Gavin, wouldn't say that this is an accretion or a change in doctrine. You would just understand that this was the rhetoric of the time. And frankly, I think Father Stephen very much, that's how he understands Chrysostom as well. And he believes that Chrysostom isn't anti-Semitic.
Chrysostom's anti-Jewish statements is what you're talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as Fezzi says, like, I will never forget, I was reading a response of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, who you probably have no idea who he is, and he's talking about Rabbi Eliashiv, who you also probably have no idea what he's talking about. And he writes, V'ata yadata horata ladat ki ein bedavarav klum. That, like, it's very flowery language for, and God made clear from the beginning that this guy has no idea what he's talking about. And he's talking about a rabbi that is very beloved, contemporary, right? And it's like, as a student of Rav Eliashiv saying something about their rabbi like that, like, it is good enough to, like, oh, I can't have this book in my house, right? But that's just how rabbis talk about each other. It's like, and people didn't get that. There were fist fights that did break out between Satmar and Chabad, which I think consisted of people who did not understand that the Satmar Rebbe sometimes speaks very passionate about things that he in order to get a point across. And look, I consider myself a student of the Satmar Rebbe. So when I make exaggerate, like, I talk about how I hope people who believe in penal substitution and atonement will one day hopefully have some hope at salvation. Obviously, I don't think you're going to hell, although I have plenty of reasons to think you might be.
And that came up in the Peugeot conversation as well, where Peugeot made the sort of, at this, I won't say it's cliche, but common, the God of Calvin is an evil God, and that's the God that I turned away from when I left being a Baptist and became Orthodox. And one thing I thought was interesting is that Gavin later said something that I probably have more sympathy to that point than you expect me to. And Peugeot just completely, I think that Peugeot was not a good listener at all, honestly. in his conversation with Gavin. What?
In real time, I have found, like, when I got into a tiff with him over Birkat Haminim,
Tiff with whom?
with Pajot.
Uh-huh.
I got in a YouTube, not YouTube, Twitter
tiff.
Yeah, with him. I very much felt like he wasn't understanding what I was saying, and I had a discussion with him in video, and even at the end of that, I didn't think he quite understood what I was saying.
Yeah, some people are better lecturers than conversation partners. And they bring, those are two different skill sets. And I think that Pajot is a better lecturer, or, monologuer, presenter, however you want to say that, than he is a conversation partner. And he's good when he is the guest on someone else's show and his main job is to talk, and the other guy's main job is to ask questions and guide the conversation. I'm not saying that Pajot can't do dialogues, but I don't think that Pajot is really good at the deep sort of listening, responding, interacting. I think Stephen DeYoung's a lot better at that, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that I thought the Stephen DeYoung conversation went way better than the Pajot one.
It seems already to certainly have.
And by the time at the end,
yeah,
Gavin almost explicitly says that at the end, while trying to throw Pajot a bone and not be rude to him. Yeah. But I think that DeYoung did a better job of listening and answering the questions that Gavin was asking at a level that Gavin probably wanted them to be answered. And good on Stephen DeYoung for doing that. So
yeah. So there's a clip of me on the Pseudo Steven channel, which I owe that guy a lot. Explaining specifically why I believe PSA. Like, there's two reasons why I fear my friend Sam might not be saved. One of which is his adherence to PSA, and the other is the fact he believes in what do they call it, glossolalia.
Speaking in tongues, yeah.
There you can see my view on why I think it is a damnable idea, and I believe it is blasphemy. But when it comes down to it, I do believe that the vast majority of people will go to heaven, and I find it very hard to believe that like Sam isn't in the top 10% of the Gentiles who'll end up in heaven.
So question, do unrepentant murderers inherit the kingdom of God?
No, definitely not.
All right. Okay. All right. We just have to say that once a stream.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that'll be at the end with my regular goodbye. But if you're an unrepentant murderer, that's even worse than believing in penal substitutionary atonement and speaking in tongues. So
understood. They're part of the context, but it's not spelled out. The Belgian Confession doesn't spell out. We're talking about the office of the Pope, not the right person. And so I think in the same way, surrounding a lot of the Orthodox doctrinal statements, there is this context in terms of how they were being interpreted and applied, and the context that came out of the Belgian Confession emerges pretty directly out of violent persecution of Protestants by the Roman Catholic Church, right? And so you would expect the rhetoric toward Roman Catholicism to be turned up higher, right, than normal, right? That's a normal thing. And so some of these Orthodox statements emerge from anti-missionary contexts, right, where there were people there actively trying to convert, right, to get people to leave the Orthodox Church and join another church. And those kind of contexts. So all of those things kind of have to be taken into account. But I think it's important to start with, maybe I should just spell out what I understand substantially the view to be.
That sounds good. I have two thoughts in the back of my mind that I want to come to at some point, but I also don't want to interrupt your train of thought. So maybe you want to finish off, and then I'll just record them down here so I don't forget.
Yeah. So substantially. So the question of, so it is very clear. It's the Orthodox teaching. The Orthodox Church is the Church of Christ. It is the church that Christ founded on this earth. It is the body of Christ. The borders of the church are coterminous with, of the Orthodox Church are coterminous with the church, right? That's very clearly the Orthodox teaching, and that is the place where God is working salvation. We understand this very much in parallel to the way Israel functioned in the Old Testament. Israel had borders,
and this is where I think Father Stephen actually understands the Jewish concept of chosenness and the entire world. Did you watch the Christian cage matches video that I had? I honestly think it's one of the best videos I've ever had on my channel, partially because Yehuda Israel, who is a Orthodox Jewish counter missionary, he has a channel kind of like Tovia Singer's, except he thinks Tovia Singer is not hard enough on Protestants. And Yehuda Israel came on, and I was trying to show him, hold up, I don't think you have a good view of Christianity. The reason I bring that up is I think Father Stephen understands the Jewish idea of chosenness. And when Yehuda Israel was saying, yeah, well, we believe you are saved through Israel, right? We believe the entire world is saved through Israel. Yes, I believe the entire world is saved through Israel and the revelation of God on Mount Sinai to Moses, right? But yeah, go watch that video. I think it's one of my best.
Right, it was a visible,
and I think Father Stephen understands that and how we mean it a lot better than the Frozen Chosen and basically certainly Calvin, and I think the entire Protestant church really.
Institution that they had received the scriptures, right? That's all of St. Paul's in Romans 2 talking about the advantages that the Jewish people had received, right? That's the place where he was working. But all through the Old Testament, there's also this idea that through Israel, God is working salvation for the nations and for the whole creation, right? That Israel is the vehicle through which he is doing that. And so, and all kinds of examples of that, the 70 bulls for the 70 nations that get offered on the Feast of Tabernacles. And so you see all along, there are people who are not technically speaking Israelites, some of whom become Israelites, some of whom don't, like Naaman, but nonetheless.
Naaman, perfect example. Father Stephen understands this so much better than most Christians I talk to. This is why I call him the #1 Judaizer in the world.
Are experiencing a form of what we would call salvation. And so for us, the statement extra ecclesiam nulla salus is kind of, outside the church there's no salvation, is kind of parallel to Christ's statement to the Samaritan woman, who later tradition would call Saint Fotini, when he says salvation is of the Jews, and I would say the genitive there should be from, right? Salvation is from the Jews. He's not excluding her as a Samaritan, right? But in the question regarding, he's in part answering the question, should we worship in Jerusalem or on Mount Gerizim? And he says, well, Jerusalem, because salvation is from the Jews, but a time is coming when this is going to change, right? But up until that point,
here, pause,
yes, it was Jerusalem.
Pause there. I mean, to zoom out a little bit, like why is this conversation happening at all? And I felt like that was one thing. Like Peugeot's good at like that stepping back and like, whoa, what's going on at like a bigger, higher level than was immediately obvious, right? That a lot of Peugeot's videos are that sort of thing, whether it's about a movie or some other, a fairy tale or whatever it is. And that I felt like for this particular conversation, Peugeot was very narrow focused in a way that I'd almost never really seen him before. Like, honestly, Peugeot's interactions with Gavin were a side of Peugeot that I hadn't seen, and presumably it's been there this whole time. But it was a little bit curious to.
Definitely the first time I've heard him say why he left and became Eastern Orthodox.
Yeah. And I have to imagine that there's all sorts of family issues going on with. I mean, there's family issues abound, and I don't want to like. Gavin really doesn't like it when people try and psychologize him, and I don't like it either. And PVK also does not like it when people try and psychologize him. But family issues abound when you've changed traditions and you have living family members who are still around to hear you talk about that.
Mr. Vanderclay, what do you have to say for yourself all the way from Europe?
I tried watching this and I fell asleep, and I don't want to go to sleep quite yet. So
we'll keep you awake, Paul.
I figured if I'm here, I won't sleep.
Okay. So I'll try to keep you awake. Important question: if you are an unrepentant murderer, are you saved?
He's
What do
asking
you
about
mean?
Calvin is really what he's doing behind.
What do you mean by saved, Jacob?
Good question. So, do you have a place in the world to come?
That's up to God.
It's up to God whether or not you have a place in the world to come. So can we know how we have an assurance of our place in the world to come?
You can have assurance of salvation. You
How
might
do
be wrong, but you can have assurance of salvation.
how do you get that assurance?
Oh, well, you can get it from the Holy Spirit.
Oh,
Some
so
people get it from YouTube, apparently.
Hold on. So I get a personal revelation of assurance from the Holy Spirit.
You could get that. I don't know if you do.
I have no such assurance. No. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm lying to you. So that postcard when Jesus saves, Jesus is the answer. I've told you about that postcard, right? That I have on my desk that says Jesus is the answer. So I was walking along and I had some really deep questions about Judaism and what we are missing, etc. And I was walking my dog. This was Happy. And as I was walking, we walked past a little postcard that said Jesus is the answer. And I walked past it and I went back and I picked it up. It says Jesus is the answer. And it had an address on it. And there were services. Happy passed away. We're lucky, hopefully will recover. Yeah. So and the services were like just about an hour and a half away from where I was. And I was like, oh, I could actually go to these services. And I went to services. And so I have had a personal experience where I feel that God has in fact given me a Lucky is sleeping right here, zonked on lots and lots of medication.
That God told you that Jesus was the answer.
Yeah, well,
Yes. All right, you are a Christian. I take it all back, Jacob. I'm sorry I said it otherwise earlier.
Yeah, unfortunately, in ways I couldn't explain to you, I don't think. I mean, the way I understand Jesus is the answer is certainly not anything either one of you would agree with. You.
I assumed that there was some irony in how you were going to interpret it.
How do you interpret Jesus as the answer?
I believe that Christians, through salvation as they see it, so the word Jesus means Yeshua, means salvation, right? Come to understanding that Israel represents God in the world.
Were you saved from Iran?
It's not the same sort of salvation, but yes.
Well, salvation is a funny thing. It's the Bible uses the word salvation in an enormous range.
I am talking about Yeshua. The word Yeshua as is. This is why I always go back to the Hebrew, because in the Bible the words are used, and when God uses those words in certain ways, I find it that I find that to be meaningful, and the word Yeshua gets used, right, to find Yeshua in the Bible has certain meanings, and that's how when I say saved in English, in the back of my mind I'm thinking Yesha.
Not the Greek, just the Hebrew.
Just the Hebrew. Yeah.
Did Joshua save Israel?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So earlier in the discussion, that it was the first time I had heard Father Stephen point this out, but he points the parallel between Paul and Moses, right? And
If I were damned for the sake of my people, I would will that.
yeah, mechani mesifrecha, wipe me out of your book.
Which
right?
is interesting because Peugeot found some blog post from Gavin from like his seminary when Gavin, according to his reports, was only 23 years old and just thinking about something, where Luther was basically saying, I would that I were damned, for the sake of everybody else or something like that. And Peugeot's like, do you still think that? Gotcha, which was, I'd like never seen Peugeot try and do something like that before. It was very uncharacteristic of him. And I think that part of the reason DeYoung brought that up.
I doubt he was Googling it. I think that was more of a hive mind. Somebody brought it to him.
Someone gave that to him. 100%. Someone in his circle gave that to him.
Yeah.
Was Jesus condemned for other people?
In the exact same way as Abel died for the sins. So Paul, I highly recommend you look at the Ashkenazi Yom Kippur liturgy where they talk about the sacrifices of the 10 martyrs. Like this is one of the things. Did you listen to my Christian cage matches stream? I seriously believe it's one of the best streams I've ever done. And
it was a fun thumbnail. And then you said it was a great stream. But
I think you would really love that stream.
Why?
Because I was explaining to a Jewish counter missionary how not all Christians believe what he thinks Christians believe.
What's a Jewish counter missionary?
Tovia Singer is one of the most prominent Jewish.
Someone who tries to
Sam
prevent.
Talk to him.
I talked to Tovia Singer.
He spoke to Tovia Singer. Yehuda Israel is. I mean, he's almost my age, but he's one of these. He kind of Reform Zoomerish type Orthodox Jews who's not a rabbi, but felt like Tovia Singer is not enough of an Orthodox Jewish bro to like body slam the Christians as well as he wants, right? So he has his own channel. I like the man, but he's definitely.
Is he Jewish YouTube?
Every time I try to explain, I bring up Reformed Zoomer. He reminds me very much of Reformed Zoomer.
Reformed, yeah.
Interesting.
Reformed reformer, or Reformed
Jacob,
Orthodox.
did you watch the whole video that you're trying to make your way through now, or are you just trying to make it through first time now?
This is my first time.
What do you think Gavin's goal for the video and conversation is, and what do you think Stephen DeYoung's goal is?
Well, I'm pretty sure I know. Oh wow! Now we're getting money out of this.
I hope we split that, right? That I expect a tip at the end of this.
Considering what percentage of
Google takes a cut, and we'll count that as my cut.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Right. Actually, there you go. Yeah, and I let Luke on because we have to have somebody who's actually Eastern Orthodox here, and Luke's my favorite person to straw man Eastern Orthodoxy with.
Would Stephen DeYoung think that Luke is Eastern Orthodox?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Luke was baptized. He gets communion in an Orthodox.
Yeah, Luke, what were you doing last Sunday?
Baptized by the Orthodox Church, Luke?
I sure was.
You were. They rebaptized you?
Yeah, well, and that part of that is like they baptize people. Depending. I think, as far as I know, it's bishop.
Sometimes they charismate them.
Yeah, depending on what kind of baptism they had. You have to have a Trinitarian baptism, and it has to be in some sort of established denomination. So, like if someone was a Lutheran or a Catholic who was baptized, they would just need to be chrismated.
Which would have been a good point for DeYoung to bring up. That there, like, for example, I would need to get rebaptized 100%. Right. But like someone who, like Paul, might not actually need to get rebaptized if he were, yeah.
Well, I've asked.
So there is a hierarchy of similarity and inclusion in that declaration.
And this gets to the question of what do we mean by the Orthodox Church? Because I've gotten different answers from different people. And, this is part of the wiggliness of this conversation, because Gavin keeps wanting to go back to Orthodox documents. That's a fairly Protestant way to approach it.
But yet Orthodox make documents.
Okay. Two things. First, let me answer. This guy actually gave me money. For his money, he better get an answer, which is I don't think Yeshayahu and whatever Jesus' actual name was, that there's etymological difference. But if you're serious about this, if you want me to go through it, I love explaining Hebrew to people.
He'll do it for free. The guy threw away his $2. Totally threw it away.
But second thing, I thought it's when Father Stephen made the analogy to Israel and
100% right.
and how we as Jews view Israel versus salvation and the people of God. I think Father Stephen understands it so much better than certainly Calvin did.
Yeah, I thought that was one of his better illustrations.
It was spot on. I actually made that analogy before I heard Father Stephen make the analogy, because I think Father Stephen before.
He's clearly stealing it from one or both of you. Is the only logical.
Obviously, although I do have to say, Father Stephen and I have actually discussed this many times.
He's not watching.
He may be watching this.
Hop on FSDY. Yeah.
If Father Stephen is watching, I will tell you, the thing is, if he hates listening to himself talk, and anytime I put on a video of him, that's when he doesn't listen to my channel. So maybe not. Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is that Brett sent me he was the first one to tell me that this happened, and I'm 35 minutes into it. And
I texted you within 2 minutes, Luke.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just saw it from Brett first.
I've got timestamps and receipts that I guarantee you I beat this other person in telling you about it.
If it was in the group chat, sometimes I lose the group chat unless you at me, because it's too much.
All right, sorry, I didn't at
you. As the very Reverend Bishop Paul Vanderklay, he gets a preeminence in honor, but not in authority. I go ahead and ask your questions, Paul. You have lots of questions.
Here, can I finish? Finish the one thought before Sam was offended that I didn't acknowledge him being first. So Brett texted me, and I said my first response, and forgive me for the cynicism, Father Stephen, if you watch this, I was just like, this ought to be good. Pinocchio emoji. I was like, I did not expect it to be good. So far, I don't think I could quibble with anything he said.
I didn't listen to your stream on Pajot and Gavin Ortlund. I thought, despite the fact that it was painful, I thought it was a good discussion, and I thought it was important.
I thought it was important and revelatory, and a lot got put out there because of Pajot and Ortlund talking, even though they weren't very good at talking to each other. And honestly, I thought Gavin was better at talking to Pajot than vice versa. And, I'm not always quick to defend Gavin, as people know, but I thought that Pajot didn't do a great job, but he did a good job in the sense of getting his feelings and stuff out there in a way that helped us understand things better.
So I think Michael and I are talking next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. It hasn't been announced yet, but yeah, Michael from Toronto Bible Study and I should be talking then. Grim wants to speak uninterrupted, by which he means why aren't you letting Pastor Paul talk?
I'm just trying to stay awake. I tried watching it and I fell asleep. So I'm just trying to stay awake. Because if I want to get into this time zone, because maybe tomorrow night Nathan Jacobs and I are going to be like this, and Joe Foley's going to be like refereeing, and the odds of that are happening are.
So one thing I would say about all of these talks is I would bring in Vervaeke's adjectival versus adverbial. I think you can say a lot of things that I think a lot of Orthodox people would agree with in a spirit that I don't think is in line with the way that Orthodox hold truth, which is a big deal. And I think Peugeot falls into that all the time. I think Nathan Jacobs in his conversation about Orthodoxy does that quite a bit. Father Stephen, not in this talk so far, but I think definitely when he's streaming with the Ortho Bros, falls into that a whole lot. A spirit that I don't think is in line with Orthodox.
Luke, okay. Did you listen to Metropolitan Saba's message to the Orthodox Church?
No.
I think you would absolutely hate it.
Okay.
And I think and I think that he was talking directly to you.
All right.
I really do. I really do.
Yeah. So Metropolitan Saba listens?
What?
What did he say? What's the too long didn't watch?
The TLDR is if you're not ordained, you shouldn't be making videos.
Yeah, well, I'm not claiming to teach. I'm doing the TLC thing. I'm saying what I think. I'm not telling other people what to think. I'm not trying to speak for the whole Orthodox Church.
Zach is also EO, also not ordained, but I actually think if he were
making a video,
if he were to ask his priest would actually say, it's okay, Zach. You can go on Jacob's channel and represent the church, because Zach actually knows his stuff. What?
You haven't met my priest.
I have not met your priest, okay. But if you want, I will ask him. So with Tim, so you know Tim, Paul. I made him go to his priest and get permission, and he did.
Which Tim?
Tim, the guy who's on my on the board of Burkhart is his last name.
Oh, the one from Sacramento?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I made him. Wow, we got a Yosa.
Oh, now we can't get Grizz on.
Why not?
He's driving.
Oh, Yosef, you're driving. At least turn off your video. Come on.
Okay.
There you go. Okay.
There you go.
So what made you jump on, Yosef?
I just finished work. I saw the link in your YouTube. It sounded,
and now you're droiding.
Sound like what your title was.
Well, I mean, the title is obviously, and the thumbnail are obviously jokes, and anybody who doesn't get that, you gotta.
Really, the correct title should be Father Stephen DeYoung explains to Gavin Ortlund that he is in fact a heretic with facts and logic, and Gavin Ortlund breathes a sigh of relief, at least getting clarity on the subject.
So can I say another way that I think Judaism and Orthodoxy are similar?
You can. You'll probably be wrong, like you always are.
Thank you. Yeah, that's.
Joseph will tell you you're wrong. Don't worry.
I just need to push the button of Jacob say a standard thing about me. So I think there's a plurality of opinions in both Orthodoxy and Judaism, and I think that's a feature, not a bug, because we're not confessionalist.
Oh man, it would be so much better if Protestantism had a diversity of opinions, so that we weren't all in agreement with each other.
Not within many particular churches, because they have statements of faith and confessions that are designed to exclude people.
Okay,
I feel designed to be excluded by some other confessions.
Despite the fact Luke is 90% right, which is a shocker, I do have to point out how he is wrong. I would say Judaism is confessional, as is the
no.
Yeah.
No.
Oh no.
What do you mean, Yosef?
Oh no.
If you don't believe in the 13 principles of faith, you are a kofar be'ikar, and the halacha is a kofar.
Not according to the Rambam himself doesn't hold that. That's the problem.
It doesn't matter if the Rambam holds it.
Of course it matters. It matters. He's the one who formulated it. No, this is a much bigger thing, and your position saying it's confessional, is an old debate we've had before, and I think you're wrong about this, and you actually know that the majority of synagogues think you're wrong about this.
And you've said we
That's
should
what's crazy to me.
Unfortunately, we have discovered that not all Jews agree with each other either.
Yosef, when it comes down to it, like, I am not a kosher aid. I'm not a kosher aid, right? Right?
Luke won the stream. Luke just came in here and poof.
Here, play a clip. Jacob, get us back on track. Play some Father Stephen DeYoung and Gavin.
Okay. Well, Zach hasn't gotten to say anything yet. Zach, did
Well,
you want to
say, I think it's just that Jacob's a Catholic Jew and Yosef's an Orthodox Jew, and that's clearly the distinction that goes on here.
No. Jacob is an evangelical Jew.
I am the chief of Protestants.
He is. He's floating out there on his own. He's in a synagogue of one. He's starting his own movement.
I am the Lutheran of the Jews. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Where she should have been worshiping, not Mount Gerizim, right? And that salvation is from the Jews, but then comes to the rest of the world. This is reflected in our liturgy that we offer. We offer the Eucharist for the life of the world and for its salvation. We pray for the whole world, including non-Orthodox people, right? I can keep going. Well, this might be a good place to pause.
Yeah. So in a second, let me come back to where my mind was going earlier.
Yeah.
Remind me if I forget about the Belgic Confession, and because I think there's some differences between Protestant exclusivity that you see in calling like the papacy the Antichrist and Eastern Orthodox exclusivity. So I want to come back to that. But just to clarify, so I mean, what does that all cash out to? Give it to me straight.
Okay. How could you fall asleep when they're talking about the Belgic Confession, Paul? They're talking about the Belgic Confession, the 3 forms of unity.
The Belgic Confession is one of the 3 forms, but go on.
Okay.
Am I a heretic?
Poor Guido was getting slaughtered by the Spanish king of the Holy Roman Empire.
Also, one thing I would point out, it's about to happen. Earlier, he said there are no Protestant universalists and we're not relativists. And right here, Stephen DeYoung says, guess what? When you say all this textual stuff is contextual and it depends on all this stuff, guess what that's called? It's called being a relativist.
What?
It's not, though.
Yeah, I have no clue.
It's relative based on the context, the text, and how it's applied.
No.
Context.
Relativism and contextualism are completely opposite of one another. But Luke, yeah, not gonna go there. Yeah.
Separated brethren. I mean,
right.
Where does the rubber meet the road here?
Okay, so you are, from our perspective, at least a schismatic, right?
At least
someone who agreed with all of the Orthodox Church's doctrine, but was not part of the Orthodox Church would be a schismatic.
Right.
Now, I don't know all of your beliefs on everything, but I know that at least some of them are not the beliefs of the Orthodox Church on those particular issues, which technically puts you in the category of heretic.
Okay.
Now, that is not worse than schismatic, by the way. People tend to think that schismatic is actually worse, according to St. Augustine, because he says heresy is a sin against reason, whereas schism is a sin against love.
And the funny thing is the word Pharisee. So in early Jewish, the reasons like Poresh Min Hatzibor is in very real terms considered to be one of the worst sins, and when people use the term parush, a Pharisee in a Jewish context as a bad thing, that's what they mean. You also have comments?
I mean, it's not why the Pharisees called themselves that, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah. It's
they're
not why they called
because
themselves
their enemies took the idea and flipped it on its head and saying, you know, you want to be separate. Your separation is actually what he's mapping here is heresy. We wouldn't call it a heresy though, but sorry,
Well, no,
schismatic.
schism.
Schismatic. Yeah.
We wouldn't call it schismatic, but because like but yeah, the Porish Minatzibor is the sin of schism.
So ironically, this Josephus's whole point with with the Pharisees is he says of the groups they're actually the most accepting and loving and tolerant of all the other ones. And that's why the masses tend to have Pharisaic beliefs and go to their like teachers and stuff. So it is a kind of a funny thing that like the way that he describes them versus like how they're remembered polemically is very different. And I don't think. I think part of this is kind of constructing a historical scapegoat to some degree.
Yeah. Okay.
So if it's a question for St. Augustine about, well, this person is wrong about this point of theology, and so they won't join the church.
What?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it more true, at least, that for the Orthodox, someone qualifies to be Orthodox by virtue of a combination of apostolic succession and baptism and relationship of communion rather than particular assent to dogmatic beliefs?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen DeYoung made that division explicitly. He said you could believe every single doctrine that the Orthodox believe, and if you were a bishop that was not in the proper chain of command and relationality, that you would be a schismatic. And so that what one could be completely right on doctrine but wrong on institutional affiliation. And
also you could be down within that stream and believe nothing of what the Orthodox believe and still be within that stream.
Luke's counting on that.
Nothing? Zach, please.
So I'm probably a heretic. I am within the Orthodox Church.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I understand.
Are you Orthodox? That's maybe a more difficult question than are you in the Orthodox Church.
The real question is if there is a priest within that stream who is willing to administer the sacrament to you, that's the definition of whether or not you're Orthodox.
I mean, I really think this goes back to what Luke, as always, threw a grenade into this entire discussion. I think Yosef and our disagreements are in fine details, but the reason I keep on going about the confessionality, people have taken this way too far where, yes, it's true, right? That if I go to my synagogue, they will still give me an aliyah, right? But that doesn't mean that like we have no confessional boundaries whatsoever. It goes too far. In like, are Protestants way more into orthodoxy over as against orthopraxy? Yes, they emphasize it, etc., etc., etc. But in reaction to that, I hate how much, certainly we as Orthodox Jews, but I'm guessing also within Orthodox Christianity, you get people who are like, okay, because they're that way and we can contrast ourselves with that way, you can like believe in Buddhism, right? Be a 100% believing Buddhist, but you walk into our church and like you don't say anything and nobody notices you, so you get communion and that's just plain fine.
No.
I don't think it is.
I think we've forgotten Jordan Peterson's "What does it mean to believe something?" which is to act as if. It's not to self-identify with abstractions. That's propositional tyranny. We all know this in the corner, but we forget about it in these conversations.
No, I agree with you. And yes, the fact that you're walking into a church, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, Rahman Aliba boy, the merciful is seeks the heart. God ultimately cares about your faith. It is what you believe and why you are doing things. Your intent is the core of what your relationship with God is.
Jacob,
Yeah,
you've got training of a lawyer. Our question here is not about Orthodox Judaism or anything about Judaism. The question is, how does the Orthodox Church, if we can use that category, how do they organize themselves and understand themselves to be constituted? My understanding, I might be wrong, but from what I've heard from many people, is it's fundamentally a relational structure, not a structure about cognitive assent.
Zach?
I would primarily say, yeah, that's true, right? If I went into my church and the way that my priest would deny communion to me would be if I started punching people in the pews. That would probably go down badly. But there is a point that Jacob's making that's probably true. There's if I didn't at least have the intent to believe what I think the church teaches, at least, there'd be a limit somewhere. I don't know where it would be.
The limit would be your priest's judgment of you.
Yes. And that's the key where I think you're right.
Again, it's a relational network fundamentally.
Yeah. There's
Who
not a
has been
document
saying
somewhere
this for
that is
7
telling
years?
him what to do with it.
Turns
Who?
out Protestants will behave very similarly if pushed to certain circumstances.
Paul brought up the legal thing. I think this is clarifying. In law, you have mens rea and actus reus, right? In order to be found guilty of a crime, you have to have the actual thing, right, where you did something wrong, and you have to have the intent. It's not that yes, both are important, and there has to be some component of both of them, or it's not that thing. And that's something that I've been trying to emphasize within Judaism, because I believe that within Orthodox Judaism, we're doing it in opposition to Christianity, because we see Christianity as being so, it doesn't matter. It's what your works are. That in opposition to that, we've just gone way too far with it doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what you believe.
Well,
Yeah.
what's interesting...
How about-
Oh, go ahead, Joseph.
Can I ask a question? Away from the Judaism thing, we can argue about that another time, Jacob. On staying on this topic, so it's one thing to say whether you are within the Orthodox Church or not. Like you maybe Zach, like if, let's say a heretic, like that's someone in the pews. But could you be a priest or a bishop or a monk who's a heretic, as long as you're not a schismatic? Like, you can still be in the church, or is there or are those at some point? Is there a break where like that those people actually have they can't be, right? They're held to a different standard.
Yeah, there's a different higher propositional standard for clergy and for bishops.
It also depends what you're saying. There's a lot of tolerance of people privately believing something if they're not actively trying to teach something. There's very different things.
The point is, when I've listened to these arguments, about visible, and when people talk, I take them seriously. And what I hear them say very clearly is that this fundamentally is a relational network. And so they take very seriously things like excommunication. And on that little clip that has gone a little bit viral with Stephen DeYoung talking about Augustine, that there is this breakage that happens. And I think they take that very seriously, because if the person in authority says they are within the tree, they are within the tree. And if they say they're not within the tree, then they're not within the tree. That's what they teach. And all of this theory about in and out based on live performance, moral performance, or mental assent is in some ways beside the point, because a priest or bishop or metropolitan will determine where you are in that tree in a visible church. That's what I hear described.
Paul, if you haven't watched Glenn Scribner's video on
I did.
Okay, that one's an important one. Wes, you jumped on, you had something you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've been baptized into the Eastern Orthodox Church for a little over a year now, and we say the creed every week at the liturgy. So if you were to not say that, or refuse to acknowledge it or something, I think that would be a major problem within Orthodoxy.
Luke, the person who doesn't believe in the creed but says it anyway, go ahead.
No, I hold the creed is called the symbol of the faith, which is an icon. You will ask anyone in the church what the creed means, you will get a plurality of answers, almost guaranteed. And also,
but you still have to say the thing.
That's because
you
it's
still
acting.
have to say the thing.
That's because it's acting. Yes, of course. You have to act along it. What it means is, I don't know. So Sam and I talk about this endlessly. And then I would also say that Orthodox people would say, just because you're in the church, just because you've been baptized, just because you've been chrismated, just because you say the creed, just because you go to every service, it doesn't mean at the end you'll be justified.
Yeah, I've heard Stephen DeYoung and pretty much every Orthodox acknowledges that.
So, I don't know. I just don't see what the big huff is about, really. The big huff is about insecurity and tribalism.
Also, the creed's wrong.
I hate to be the person who does this, because it's so funny. Because whenever Christians keep on talking about salvation, we as Jews go, "What are you talking about? Why are you bothering me?" But ultimately, the question is about salvation. What does it take for me to be in right relationship with God? Right? This is the core. The telos is to be in right relationship with God. And part of that telos in being right relationship with God is what you believe in God, which is one of the reasons I fear people who believe in penal substitutionary atonement will in fact end up damned forever.
So
You are so Protestant.
I will very much agree that we are called to love God with our entire mind. And I think in the final analysis, in the fullness of what it means to be united to God, it is having right ideas about him. I just don't forefront that, because I don't think that's what people need. I don't think that's how people work. See Paul's conversation with Craig Biddle. We don't know what we think about God. Go to Peter Rollins. This is why people go to therapists. They don't know why they're doing the things that they're doing.
True.
But when you're in a faith that claims to be the one true church, I think it's reasonable to start with something like the creed, as just a baseline of this is what we believe. And
Stephen DeYoung said the creed saves you. He said the gospel is the Nicene Creed in the conversation with Gavin. Straight up said it. He said, well, we have 4 gospels. One of them, the shortest one, is 16 chapters. So I don't want to simplify it more than that. But if you ask me to simplify the gospel is the Nicene Creed. That is an almost word for word direct quote from Stephen DeYoung in this conversation.
But it's also a hedge around a mystery. I mean, that Augustine said that. Like if you want to go into like what the creed is, I'm trying to lead into it as an icon. Do I know what it means to love? Like I can profess I can speak in tongues and not have love.
Wes, your mic's kind of loud. If you could mute yourself while you're not talking, please.
Sure.
I think so much of this is part of number one, it's really hard not to be Protestant today. And number two, because it's really not hard to not be Protestant today, it's really not hard to hear people speak things clearly. And what I understand the argument is, and this will go way back to the Protestant Reformation and that fight, is because you can make a very good argument from the Bible, as a Protestant even, that Christianity, in terms of a visible church, is fundamentally a giant relational network via apostolic succession, all the way. Now, the Romans, of course, will say all the way back to Peter. And so Peter begins this tree that goes on relationally, and all of those representatives of Peter, a la apostolic succession, will have the keys to the kingdom. And so the metropolitan, the bishop, and the priest, all the way down, will basically supervise that giant relational network. And all of this talk about ascent, moral performance, it's not that it is in some ways, it's just not central to the image of what they're saying the church is.
Okay, Paul, I don't know if this is actually Dr. Ortlund's account. Anybody can go ahead and come on the StreamYard. I am not going to immediately imagine that this is actually Dr. Ortlund. You're going to have to prove your identity, because I suspect porn bombing the stream might actually be more likely than Dr. Ortlund actually jumping on. But please feel free to try to jump on. Yeah. You were saying.
That's the same point I've been making the whole time. I understand that, and I think that it's not, and in many ways, this conflict that happened between Rome and Luther and later on through the Protestants had everything to deal with that giant relational chain, and whether or not Christians down the line continued to believe in that giant relational chain.
Well, even Protestantism still has more of that relational chain in it, and the way it actually works then is often obvious. It
does, but Paul, where's your apostolic succession?
I mean, there is no Christian alive who wasn't baptized by someone
Sam,
who goes all the way.
Dr. Ortlund, if that is actually you, if you can put your hand on your forehead. Yes, thank you. Sorry, I had to do this because
that's him.
Yeah, this is Dr. Ortlund. Yes, it is an honor, sir. Please.
Put my hand on my forehead. How many tests do I have to pass?
No. Yeah. So the hand on the forehead thing, when if it's a fake video, you wouldn't be able to actually make the gesture, and that's why. Yeah, we get porn bombed a lot on these streams.
How many sidewalks and bicycles do you see?
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for letting me join. This is kind of fun to see you guys. I've always wondered, you guys talk about the TLC. I see that all the time. What the heck is that? Can you give me a brief explanation?
This is actually not the TLC.
Okay.
It is, Jacob.
This is the TLC.
My channel has schismed away from the TLC.
All right.
I am part of the Jordan Peterson sphere, but Paul Vanderklay is the Pope of the TLC.
Is the TLC the one true church? Are the institutional boundaries? Is it institutionally exclusive?
I would say we're all heretics. Jacob is a schismatic.
So Paul, being as he is, he believes in, what do you call it, jackal Christianity, or what do you call it? What's that animal you say instead of lion versus
Fox.
fox? He tries to be foxy by not calling things the way they are.
And look at him.
Yes, it is
Fox.
very closed communion, and Paul actually kicks people out when he wants to, but he's also very like mainline in not kicking anybody out. So like,
I can't
Jacob.
imagine Paul kicking anyone out. Paul seems too kind to do that.
Paul kicks people out.
I think he's done it twice in the entirety of the thing.
Paul kicks people out. Paul is a very mainline Presbyterian.
Yes. Only relationally. Paul is very relational in this. He has to know your intention.
Okay, let's actually let Paul speak. But honestly, Dr. Ortlund, I'm so excited. I watch so many of your videos. So
it's fun to talk with you guys. I got back from a bike ride, pulled up YouTube, saw this video, and thought, hey, I have some time to kill. Let's hang out for a bit. So this is fun.
That's the TLC.
Paul, you should give your best try to define the TLC.
The TLC is a space where people can talk and stay in relation with each other. Jacob is a schismatic, but I still think Jacob is part of the TLC, even though he doesn't, which means he is.
Well, if you're a mainline Presbyterian, I'm sure when you excommunicate people, you do it in a very orderly fashion.
I am part of the Christian Reformed Church. We completely left whatever vestige people imagined was the main line in Synod 2022.
So what is the denominational spread among you guys? Is it about as diverse as it gets?
Okay, let me
more diverse than you imagine.
Well, okay, so I am a not observant Orthodox Jew of the Hasidic variety. Yosef is he refuses to get ordained, but he is an actual Orthodox Jew. Sam is Unitarian. Paul is Christian Reformed Church and Catholic a little bit. Andrew is Coptic. Wes is new here, but he said he's Eastern Orthodox. Zach is also Eastern Orthodox. Luke is Eastern Orthodox. And Rabbi Chezi also refuses to get ordained, but he is he lives in Israel and is also an Orthodox Jew. My channel is unofficially, kind of officially Orthodox Jewish. Yes.
I mean, there's Muslims, there's agnostics, there's atheists, there's probably some Islamic people, there's Buddhists.
But it's mostly Christians.
Can we make some room for Gavin to express himself now? Father Stephen DeYoung, Jonathan Peugeot, you're here. We're here for you. We love you. Tell us what you've been going through, sir.
Oh, thanks. I just think it's kind of fun to hang out for a few minutes with you guys. I'm doing great. I love these dialogues. I find the reason I asked about the TLC is I get the sense from just little bits I pick up that there's a value of just conversation and relationship and just kind of, not needing to classify everything right away and that kind of thing. And I love that. So it's kind of fun to hang with you guys. I did the dialogue with Father Stephen yesterday afternoon. I really enjoyed it. But I enjoyed the one with Jonathan too. I mean, I tend to think, sometimes there's this concern about, oh no, what if we're talking past each other? The thing is, the only way I know to not talk past each other is to talk. So then you're going to talk past each other a little bit, but like after the 17th conversation, you're doing it a lot less than in the 9th, so you just got to practice and work at it. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, there's real issues on the table. I mean, we're talking about some pretty heavy stuff. So I'm not making light of it either. But I don't have any agenda in joining in. I just thought, There's Paul Vanderclay. Let's go talk and hang out.
So one way I always characterize the TLC is it centers around person versus ideas per se. So it's not ideological. It's not trying to convert anyone. It's fundamentally about people, irregardless of what they think.
But it is people who like to talk about ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's
And
the
Bible.
most contentious topic that you guys discussed together?
Universalism.
Trinity, the
Hands
Trinity,
down.
the
Hands down the
Trinity.
universalism
Yeah,
question.
universalism is more.
So
No,
Sam and I,
It's on my channel. It's the Trinity. Yes.
so Sam and I are like really good friends. He's one of my best friends in the TLC. He's a biblical Unitarian. I'm an Orthodox Christian. We talk about the Trinity all the time. I'm a Universalist. That's another heated topic. I'm explicitly a Christian Universalist, much in line with like George MacDonald. He's probably the best example of like what I would adhere to. And we talk about all that stuff.
Messian a Zionist over here.
Okay, on this channel, Zionism. So the two things that are not allowed on my channel to go unchallenged are the Trinity and Zionism. So yeah.
I don't think we have any Trinitarian Zionists, though. I feel like it's a gap in the market.
Are you kidding? The Trinitarian
We
Zionists
definitely do.
are definitely by far the largest group of Zionists. Christian
No, I mean,
Zionists?
yeah.
Are you kidding?
Probably.
On your
Well, not-
channel.
Yeah, there's dispensationalists here.
Yeah, there are 50 million dispensationalists.
No, I meant in TLC they're
Yeah, but
dispensationalists.
they're not here. They're not on
Oh.
your channel.
Well, on my channel, like there are the two heresies, like Zionism,
Jacob.
Zionism and the Trinity.
What Gavin could see here, though,
Yeah.
I think it's very important, is we are seeing you speak across the divide, so to speak, to Jonathan Peugeot and to Father Stephen DeYoung. And for us, it's very interesting. And honestly, I think it's also inspiring because that's very much what we're trying to do here, sort of underneath the surface. And seeing these conversations, what we would call Christian YouTube, right? We want to sort of remove ourselves from that, or specifically Christians do. As Jews, there's like another layer of meta of us looking at you. But specifically here, I think you participating in that conversation is fantastic because, as you could see even here, with such a plethora of opinions over here, we're all seeing each other. And it's very, very important to be able to see each other, to be able to recognize that the image of God is there. And of course, like you said, that gets to real questions then of salvation. But we have to believe that the master of the universe is smiling at all of us. So that's why we have to be able to expand that umbrella as much as possible. So I think it's fantastic that you're over here right now, sir.
Oh yeah, it's fun to talk. I'm always happy to make new friends. And I don't know exactly what the label Christian YouTube refers to. I suspect I'm probably guilty of whatever the crimes of that entity are. Well, because I myself will look back and cringe at older thumbnails at times. But the tricky thing that I wrestle with, and I don't know if any of you guys do, is how do you maintain? So the thing earlier of the person first, before the idea. What happens when ideas come up that really, oh man, that you really disagree with, and how do you and I'm not asking this for you guys to settle this because it's an ongoing tension we probably all wrestle with, but how do you keep that tension of you honor the truth and you honor, like I'm thinking of like certain political ideologies that are extremist. So let's say you're talking with someone like this. How do you honor the truth of the fact that you think this is destructive, and maybe you even think it's satanic? Maybe you even think it's from the devil, but you also want to recognize that other person who holds that view is made in the image of God still.
Well,
that is an ongoing tension that I suspect my entire life I will keep wrestling with. How do you uphold truth and love as two different values? How do you humanize other people while also, because we have a lot in the Christian scriptures about contending for the truth and about certain ideas that can be satanic, or that's extreme to say satanic, but short of that can be destructive. So I'm sure that tension probably comes up for you guys as you have these conversations.
So Dr. Ortlund, I am going to try to be a little bit Jacobish, and please have some lenience. But so there's a reason this is my background. And the reason this is the background of my channel is because, and your Hebrew is better than most people's. When in Mark 12, Jesus says the two, like the greatest commandment, the first one is Va'afta et Hashem Elokecha, right? You shall love the Lord your God. And the second one is like it, right? That is an ancient Jewish teaching that precedes Jesus. And as Sam likes to point out, like the Pharisees are like, yeah, he's right, because that is something we fundamentally believe in. I think Judaism and Christianity is that there are these twin commandments upon which the entirety of our relationship with God stands. And so when it says va'avta et, and you shall love, right? I put this background in the back so that I can see when I am looking at people's pictures, I can see that they are an image bearer. And my love of God has to reflect my love of that person. At the same time, as I have said many times, and you might find this strange, I believe penal substitutionary atonement is one of the greatest blasphemies I have ever heard. It is something that I fear very much. So when I was listening to you and Pajot talk, and I believe you quoted the Jerusalem Council talking about how someone who believes in this will be damned, I was like, yeah, I agree with that. I really do. Which for me is actually a painful thing to say, because Sam is a friend of mine and he does believe in penal substitutionary atonement. And Paul is a friend of mine and he does believe in penal substitutionary atonement. And so it is my love of God and them as representatives of God creatures, right? So my Twitter bio has the Mishnah from Avot, the sayings of the fathers, which says loving the creatures and bringing them closer to the Torah. This is why my channel exists, to love the creatures of God. And the creatures of God oftentimes, and frankly, I don't know which damnable beliefs I have, but I probably do, right? And that's why we have this discussion. And being Jacob, I'm going to have to say this, Jeremiah 31 talks about the new covenant, right? That shall be written on our hearts, so that from the least to the greatest we shall know God, and it shall not be required of us to say to each other, know God, right? That is why I believe Christianity is false, because we are here one to the other saying to each other, know God. So
well, I think it's pretty awesome that you can have a conviction like that and yet keep in relationship with people who hold that view. And I imagine, and I'm going to be muting myself when I'm not talking because you will hear screams in the background from my kids, who I may need to run and check on in just a little bit here. How do you guys work through forgiveness and maintain good relationships when tempers flare? Do you ever have those issues, or am I the only one who has to work at that?
Tempers never flare.
We just never get angry. It's easy.
People actually watch my channel most because Chezi and I end up arguing over Zionism to the point where there have been times when we haven't spoken to each other for a couple of weeks.
I think the answer to Gavin's question is what Gavin already said, is that the best way to not talk past each other is to keep talking. And I think that's really the way that we try and solve those heated things, is to keep faith in relationship and dialogue to get past even heated moments or what seem to be intractable disagreements.
For heaven's sake, though, the conversation needs to be for heaven's sake. and that is sort of a nice way of saying, or a different way of saying in good faith, because I genuinely see seekers, people that are trying to be close. Now, in our theology, in Orthodox Judaism, we have, I would say, more flexibility with how we see the Gentiles, so to speak, because basically everyone is saved in a certain sense. So it's a little easier for us. However, I do feel, and Jacob might disagree with this, but from our experience over years and years, thousands of years of this kind of style of debate, and arguing, but for heaven's sake, right? The famous schools of Hillel the Great, the sage, and Shammai, while they completely disagreed with each other, their children still married. And we hope, and we see this with our Christian brothers and sisters having this kind of debate. So again, you participating in that, it's about talking it through. It's about good faith, and it's having that conversation again and again. And at some point, you reach an idea where you could look at it from a different perspective because you spent enough time speaking to the different perspective, right? Like Eve is called, an exact translation would be a help against him. We'll bring in Vervaeke over here when saying opponent processing. This is very, very important for this kind of dialogue.
Well, here's a challenge I'm seeing and I'm feeling is the internet is messing with all of us, I think. I have conversations in real life. I'll go speak at somewhere at a church or something. I'll have the most pleasant, conversations. People afterwards, people will line up and we'll talk, and it's just wonderful and so forth. And then you make the mistake of logging on to X, and or whatever it may be, and you see something is happening. I do not understand what it is, but something is happening through the way communication is happening right now, and it's not unique to one religion or one group or one part of the world. It's just like the internet is doing something to us, and it's not good, and I don't understand it. So that's a background feeling I have. Am I alone in that, or do you guys see a similar thing?
Can I take that one? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I take so I want to say a couple things on that. And Luke, I know you have something to say on that because you use the internet specifically in a way to undo that problem, right? Because even
Yosef,
I'm afraid
there must
your
be a way to do
microphone
it.
is a bit off.
It's just as much. No, sorry.
Sorry, Yosef, you're droid.
There's a way to redeem the internet. Fine. Luke, say it. You can do it.
Yeah, so I would say something like we have all these different aphorisms that have come up in this community, and one of them is like trampling down the algorithm by the algorithm. And so I would say TLC in a lot of ways is using the internet, using the medium of the internet against itself because we're not being beholden to the algorithm. Basically, all I do on the internet is YouTube, and basically all I watch are people in TLC and conversations that we're talking about because those are people that I know and trust. I'm not dealing with avatars and people that have fear and security issues that want to just tear down someone so that they can be comfortable in their own kind of ideological tribalism. I trust all these people, even though I passionately disagree with a lot of them.
Lance made a point, and he might want to actually make it, but in the chat that we've met each other. Like I, except for Chezi and Zach, I have actually been to Luke's house and Sam's house, and I've been to Paul's church. And Zach and Lance and I had actually with Sam, we had barbecue in Arkansas together, right? And one of the greatest things that my channel, I believe, has succeeded in doing is there's an apartment here in Los Angeles where 3 people live who met through my channel, right? And they're roommates now. So, and none of them are Orthodox Jews. You're muted,
Hezi. You're muted, Hezi.
Paul, can you try to respond to Gavin? Since unlike this merry bunch over here, you and Gavin are somewhat removed a little because you're speaking to the people. So your experience of X, so to speak, or the internet, how do you feel with that?
the TLC started accidentally, but it started accidentally because when I made videos about Jordan Peterson, I treated the people who came to me as a pastor treats people who come to them in a church. And we eventually started meeting together. That became Estuary. But because we were doing this online, that became the TLC. And as Luke said, the relationships are more important than what people think about the world, usually in theory. And, you know, I'm in London right now because we're doing a breakwater event, which is basically a TLC event. And we've tried to, at most of these events, have people from, so I'm talking with Nathan Jacobs tomorrow. He's become a friend of mine. He's Orthodox, actually got his PhD at Calvin Seminary. We have Jared Smith, who's the guy who does the Atheist Church audits, and a whole bunch of others. And we have tried to prioritize small channels, talking with one another, getting to know each other, and if possible, in real life. And to try to keep the relational network primary. That's really been the heart of it.
That's really cool. Well, I'm happy to see you guys, and I hope just in that very spirit, I can get to know you guys better a little bit. I know Sam and I will get lunch in a couple weeks, next week, I think.
Next week, yeah.
So that'll be fun. But yeah, I should hop off here because the you know how it is as a dad when the noises are increasing in volume to the point where my wife is home too, but she's doing something. So, but
Thanks
hey,
for coming.
Yeah, it's fun to see you guys. Hopefully, we'll talk again sometime soon.
It's definitely been an honor, Dr. Ortlund, and you're always welcome.
Thanks, guys. God bless. See ya.
See ya. My brother in Christ.
I wanted to.
Jacob's Corner. Jacob's Corner comes through again.
It's the Jordan Peterson sphere. Father Eric named it that, and Father Eric is the official leader of the Christian community on my Discord. So sorry, Paul. You've been proposed.
You've said before he's the official leader of the Catholics.
He
I
is.
take a Catholic priest as my leader.
Okay. I do have a mod for the Eastern Orthodox, but he's the only official Christian when I had a rabbi on my Discord and I named him the official rabbi, he was the one who insisted that Father Eric should be given a similar title, and I did. It's in the rules. So Father Eric is listed in the rules on my channel. Sherry, long time no see.
I just jumped on because I wanted to represent. I wanted Gavin to know this is not a manosphere, and then he left.
But he did see that you do exist. Yeah.
Yeah. One of me.
Yeah.
There's
30 seconds.
And I want to jump on because I hope he starts hanging around here. And I would just say this. I was going to say this to his face. Maybe he's going to watch this or whatever. I just had a conversation with Matt. I've always just been a little suspect because of apologetics-y guy he is. I always feel like there's agenda. So if he hung around here more, I'd get to know him better, right? And we could move past some of that. But that's
after the broadside I did attacking PSA and Christianity, if he comes back, I'm actually going to respect the man.
And he can handle it. He's not going to be super upset that this random bald guy from Houston has this opinion. But yeah,
this just changed his life.
Yeah. So as the TLC is heated up, Matt and I are starting some conversations. We're going to have multiple conversations. And I may be wrong. I thought we could maybe come to some stipulations. But I felt as if in my Protestant world, I always felt as if I lived in a world where we were excluding others too. Particularly Catholics. And I just grew up in a world where there were excluded folks. And so I feel like everyone, no matter where you stand, has some kind of exclusivism about it. Right. And if you see, I just quickly, you see all the things that are bantered back and forth where people say awful things about the other people, and so we have throughout history. And so, but I could tell that
and it gets down to people are very offended by the one true church thing of orthodoxy, right? And maybe Matt and we're going to continue to have all these conversations because Matt and I talk really well with one another, and I trust him, and we're in good faith.
Is this
I
Matt
thought we
C?
could get there. Matt C, yeah.
Okay.
I thought we'd get there more quickly. Now, I knew we would infuriate Phlebas, which we did. He hated it, and he's going to hate it. But I just think we can just turn the temperature down. Like, I think we all, wherever we stand, Jacob and Hezi, like, we have vast disagreements. I believe in a Trinitarian Christ, right? So Jacob and I have some very
You think
big
Christ is Trinitarian? Oh, dear Lance.
there we go.
That's a good way to communicate.
Made a mistake. So,
but I've actually had anti-Semites and white nationalists on my channel.
yeah, you're great. So
And
I'm glad you didn't lead with that, Jacob, when explaining that to Gavin.
But because I just think, like, yeah, we disagree with one another, and they're big disagreements, but triggering each other into anger, like, I would think that, isn't it obvious no matter where you stand, there's some exclusivism there? Even if you're a universalist, like, there's still exclusion for inclusion, right, Luke? Like, but I guess that's not as obvious to certain people, and I might be wrong. I'm open to it. Like, that's why I trust Matt. I want to see if we can. Yes, we mostly are wrong, but I don't know. In the Protestantism I grew up in, that we were exclusivists too.
He sensed it, right? I mean, he said that, like, he's like, what is the TLC, right? Like, that's like where he jumps on right now, and he sees PVK over here, and you hear he's sort of taken back by the fact he's like, wait, but how do you guys do it? How do you guys agree? How's what I'm seeing actually happening? And for us, it almost seems like comical. Like, what do you mean? Why would you not be able to communicate and talk to these other people? Man, that was just fantastic. That was a very inspiring moment.
This is the kind of evangelism I love. It's just like, wow, what you guys are doing is beautiful and so different than this just cesspool that I'm used to.
But at the beginning of his convo with Peugeot, Gavin was saying that, like, man, this apologetics thing is starting to wear me out, and it's different than it used to be. I think he uses apologetics the way that we would use Christian YouTube, basically. But I think that Gavin is certainly a Christian YouTuber, and he was right to suspect that we sort of meant him by that. But I think that he's hoping for something different, and that I do feel like the tone has gotten a little nastier in recent years than it was even in Christian YouTube land before then.
Yeah.
Okay. Since this is going to be one of the most popular videos I ever have, I have to hawk Fountain of Comfort. There's a link in the description. Please donate. We're trying to improve the world's mental health. Yes, that is my grift.
Well, and Sam, I thought about you. Like, I also think, I don't take the bait. Do you think I'm a Christian? That's such a gotcha question. I think you can see it no matter a lot of places you stand. The first person I thought about, Sam, was like, but what about my friend Sam? Right? I mean, technically, in terms of an Orthodox answer, the answer would be no, right? Like, that's, if you ask Jonathan Peugeot, that's kind of what he would have to say with respect to that. But I think the official church folks need to say that. But, from my perspective, just being in relationship and loving the world, like, and then so again, you want to play these games, and some Christians will think, well, I have the good answer. I have the good answers. I would call everyone my Christian brother. Oh, you're going to call the LGBTQ pride focused church down the street? Are you going to call them Christians too? I mean, I keep asking questions, and eventually I'll hit the point where you're going to say, well, no, not those Christians.
I think it would be interesting for Gavin and I to turn the tables and have the same conversation, him and I. As Gavin said, we're having lunch next week. That's not going to be a public recorded thing. So I'll get my chance to pester him about that a little bit.
One of the things I ended up doing because of my involvement in this flotilla of whatever you want to call it, is I started going to a Reform synagogue. Because frankly, and I've talked to this before, like, I think what Gavin was talking about in the actual video, like the harshness, part of it comes from the feeling of betrayal that converts will sometimes have.
That was a good point. I heard you make that point.
Yeah, and
I almost jumped in early, Jacob, because I heard you make that point.
I mean, honestly, like my feeling of betrayal at unorthodox Judaism is far more like visceral than any feeling I have towards a Nazi or a Zionist or any. Yes, Zach.
There's a very perceptive point, because I converted to Orthodoxy from an Episcopal church, right? And famously, everyone is extremely friendly and happy-go-lucky, and there's no boundaries to anything at all. And everyone was totally fine with me going to Orthodoxy, except for there was one lady with learning difficulties who said to me when I told her what I was doing, "Oh, do you not like us? Do you not like us anymore?" It's always that actual rubbing up with something that's real, feels like a judgment on someone else to go a different way, and it just raises the heat in the room so much, and it's worth dwelling with that and being charitable to Gavin that's what he'll be feeling if he sees people leaving and going, "Oh, we don't like you, we're gonna go over here."
Okay, more people are trying to jump on. If you're not going to speak, please let other people jump on. I might just kick
I'll
Luke.
speak. I'll speak.
All right, I gotta go. All right, it was wonderful. Thanks, Jacob. This was fun. I thought Stephen DeYoung would join this stream.
Hey,
I
Sam.
did not think Gavin would, so that was a surprising twist.
That was definitely surprising to me. Yes.
All right, thanks for everything that you do, Jacob, and making these sorts of things possible. Whatever exactly it is that you do, I don't really know what you do, but you do something.
I'm a social worker. This is social work.
Congratulations, Jacob.
I will also go because I'm going to go do a Minneapolis estuary
Jeff!
event planning thing.
Showing off.
Okay. Love you,
Showing
Jeff.
off,
Bye.
Luke.
I'm going to go too. I just wanted to jump on and represent, but
Hello, Sherry.
Short-lived.
Yes, it's been forever. It's been like years. How you doing? Can you hear me, Jeff? I'm not sure he hears me. I don't think Jeff is hearing me.
Hopefully he'll come back. We missed Jeff, an OG.
Yeah, he was there at the first annual fishing trip where we didn't fish, and it's been how many years? And we haven't had another one. But it was definitely a fun first annual fishing trip.
Well, one of the things I've been trying to figure out. Go ahead. One of the things I've been trying to figure out lately, it might just be my disposition, how I see things. I've tried to get out of the arguing phase, back and forth. It doesn't do any fruitful good. That's why I'm trying to, but I'm comfortable living with the fact that, like, I disagree vehemently with you, right? But I understand why we disagree. Like, I'm not going to change your mind about certain things, Jacob. There's no way. It's okay. Like, well, but about certain things, right? Maybe I won't do it. I think if you, for example, if you become an Orthodox Christian, the only person who would do that is God. It would not be me arguing with you on this YouTube channel. Would you know what I mean? Yeah. That's kind of where I leave it up to, right? So, but I live in that tension, and I'm very comfortable arguing and not taking offense. So that's another thing. But also, like, it just seems obvious to me that, like, yeah, people are making some pretty strong claims. I understand where they're coming from. I'm persuaded somewhere else, and I don't have a problem. Like, it doesn't anger me, if that makes sense. But maybe I'm just wired that way. I don't know.
Well, I think Zach's comment was very accurate. You know, this stuff, people take it personally, and it's tough stuff to sort through. You know, if you're raised, especially believing something, being told it's the truth, for example, in my case, I was raised in Mormonism, right? Which claims to be the one true church. And so you grow up with that idea, but then you discover something that makes you think that's not the case. And then you are trying to sort through, what does that mean? And there's all these different ideas about what it is. And you know nothing about actual Christian church history until you are, in my case, are almost 50 years old. And so, you know, it's just tough stuff to sort through. And there's so many different attitudes and dispositions and how you talk about these things. And I think it's just really hard for everybody.
We're waiting for Jeff.
Okay, I can finally hear you guys. I don't know what was going on. Can you all hear me okay?
We can hear you. Yeah. How you doing?
Good.
It's been a long time.
I know it's been a while. I figured I'd jump on and say hi, Jacob. I can't remember the last time that we talked, but it's good to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were mentioning Arkansas and a fishing trip, so I had to jump in and represent a non-fishing trip, I should say.
Yeah. It's been forever since Charlie hasn't been around. I wonder how he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while.
The old crew. Okay, Andrew, you said you were going to say something. What are you going to say?
Oh boy, now there's pressure. Yeah. So why did Gavin come on in the first place? He was just like, oh, what's this TLC thing? I'm gonna hop on just to make sure. So why didn't he hop on like one of Paul's streams? You know, like that's closer to home.
Paul
Jacob has such a magnetism.
He wanted like a reaction video to react to.
I think
he wanted a reaction stream to react to.
I actually think
yes or no, Gavin.
Part of Jacob. It. I actually think part of it may have been that my channel, like, I am not a Christian, right? And that allows a platform for people. Like, he doesn't have to judge me as a brother whether I have gone off and been excommunicated, right? And I think that allows at least some Christians to extend a hand of friendship that they can't to other Christians.
I think you're getting way too cerebral about it.
Say that again.
His name's in the title. Yeah.
I think it was the thumbnail. That's all it was.
Of him getting bodied.
Yeah.
I think I'm weird. I'll have to watch the. Go ahead, Zach.
No, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna head off now.
There you go.
Thanks for having me on.
Hold on, Zach. Are you actually gonna go to the breakwater thing or no?
I don't think I'm able to actually.
Oh, you should at least go meet up with the people. I mean, you're one of the famous. You will be shocked. I was absolutely shocked when I went to one of these events and people were like treating me as a sort of like celebrity, and it was like, have you met me? Like,
well, I might message some of the people that are coming if I can find out if they're coming. But I live in Scotland. It's quite a long way from London.
See, this every time we go to Vancouver, my mom keeps on saying, can't we see Niagara Falls? She hasn't seen Niagara Falls. And so, like, we have family in Vancouver, and for her, it's all Canada, right?
A little bit of a drive from Vancouver to Niagara Falls.
It's only the other side of the continent.
Anyway, thanks. Have a good night.
See ya.
Okay. So, Jeff, you're in London, huh?
Jeff, London?
Blink once for you.
I think we lost Jeff again.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's that cheap UK internet.
Wes, what did you want to say?
How far through the video did you guys get?
Well, I can check, but like not very far. 24 minutes
Jacob,
in.
is Jacob muted or is it just me?
I can.
No, Jeff, you're done for.
No, it's just you, Jeff. Sorry.
It's just you.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
watched
Jeff.
the whole thing. Did you? I saw that you guys reacted to it.
Well, I was watching it for the first time, but when Dr. Ortlund jumps on the stream, you kind of stop.
Wait, so Ortlund jumped on your stream? I didn't see that.
Yes.
Kind of late in the game.
Yeah, late in the game, but like
really,
Jacob loves fishing in.
Like
He
10
loves
minutes
fishing in
late.
the YouTube stars.
I was very surprised.
Jacob, now is that two people now from Tucker Carlson on this thing? Was Gavin on Tucker once?
I don't think.
I don't know if
Gavin's
Gavin ever
been-
did that.
I
actually.
don't
He
think.
might not
I
have.
don't think he's been on Tucker Carlson. No. But
So how
yeah,
long was he on here? I'll have to go back and watch this stream.
I mean, it was sizable. I was able to preach the gospel to him. I'm not sure he.
You mean the Noahide gospel? What are we talking about?
Exactly.
Wait a
Exactly.
second. What? Just mere God? Is that? That's what he's arguing for. That's what Gavin's arguing for.
Right,
Gavin is
so-
arguing for Noahidism.
Well, no. Hold on. You've heard me. You've heard me give my whole spiel about how if you believe in penal substitutionary atonement, you might lose your salvation.
I have, and I think it's a compelling argument from a Jewish position. Yeah.
And how Jeremiah 31 proves that Christianity is false.
You
Well,
were
I've
much
heard this
too
argument.
preachy,
I don't
Jacob.
agree with
You
that one,
just
but-
got on and you started yapping at him.
Well, I mean, look, how I doubt very much. I mean, if Dr. Ortlund wants to come back on my channel, he's very welcome. But I have to like.
You
do
had
the
to get some
altar call.
punches in.
I had to do the altar call. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
The families of Israel. That's the Jews, right? And that's the argument. Yeah. I think that's crazy. Wow, I can't believe he came on.
I didn't think it was actually him. I seriously
Right.
when I
was
saw,
gonna say, is it like an AI deep fake kind of thing?
I was afraid it was going to be a porn bomber. Yeah. I was because we've had that before. People
Yeah.
actually going to real
shows
lengths.
That shows
And
up.
so yeah, I was.
They disguised as me.
Did we have a porn bomber disguised? We certainly had somebody who used a clip of Yoav to get onto the stream.
Really? That's
porn
wild.
bombers.
I totally
Yeah.
believe. I mean, people do it all the time, and
Yeah.
a lot of times, if they're that particular, then they know you. That's the thing that always gets me. Like if it's that specific,
So
they know you.
so this actually happened once. So I had a porn bomber. I made him go through the rituals enough that I got enough information, and then he came back like a year later, and I was like, "Hey, I remember you." And I actually got to have a little bit of a discussion with him, like, and see who he was, and yeah, that was weird.
So I have a confession to make, Jacob.
Yes.
I'd been out of this crew for a long time. I still disagree with you.
Okay.
But because I've become so enamored and I would say respectful of Father Stephen DeYoung and his willingness to speak to you so often and be such good friends, I feel as though I owe you an apology and I should try and be, friends like Stephen is. So as much as I can.
I always you've been nicer to me than any no, I mean look, Cedric is very nice, and Aaron Vriesman came on several times, but you were the only one that I kind of like. I was serious what I said about on Alex Soren. I didn't realize you had changed. You're one of the few people who has seriously been willing to defend PSA on my channel, which it's hard to get.
Yeah, I still think you can defend it in some sense, but not in the same sense anymore. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say that because we have all sorts of disagreements, but I feel like a man holier than I am, Father Stephen DeYoung, I could learn something from that to some degree, right? So,
Look, what I have always found is that people who are actually devoted in the Christian faith, and that's why I often, when I'm talking to Christians, one of the first things I ask them to share with me is their Christian testimony, because from my experience, serious Christians tend to really seriously act out of love and be forgiving and charitable, and that's a beautiful thing. I respect it, and I'm glad for it. So
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's always tough because, well, I'll say I've lots of Jewish friends, and when I was in the cigar lounge in Philly all the time, I would talk to this guy all the time who's Jewish, lawyer
Mhm.
guy. But I would say it's tough because so many Christians sort of assume a subversive nature when speaking to people from other faiths, and maybe even more Judaism than others. So it's probably hard for them to overcome that initially. I would imagine that's part of it. But anyway, yeah. So Father Stephen Young has been really helpful to me. So it's been cool to see you guys kicking it. So, and he's pretty brilliant, I have to say.
Yeah, he's a heavy hitter. Matt C. I was actually kind of surprised Matt C. was praising him so clearly and loudly on Twitter. I should probably go and find that
Matt C. I don't know
tweet.
what that is.
Oh, he's an artist. He puts out comic books, and he's a Christian. Very reformed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I think
It's
the
great
Reformed
guy.
folks
You know who
are
Matt.
interesting.
If you saw him, you'd know who Matt C was, Bruce.
Would
you
I?
were in voice chats with him. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe
I've watched every single video of Jacob and Father Stephen. It's been some of the most helpful stuff that I've seen. Super enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it's been in my journey to Orthodoxy. He's been really helpful, coming from the Reform background. So it helps me with the language and the categories a lot.
And if Jacob keeps
100%.
reeling in all these YouTube superstars, eventually he and his anti-Zionist views may make it on Tucker Carlson. He'd love you, Jacob.
I doubt very much he would love me.
It might be a fascinating conversation, and he might see, well, here's a Jew that's not a Zionist. That's very interesting.
So what I always point out is if by Zionism you mean attaching religious significance to the modern state of Israel, I am an anti-Zionist. If by Zionist you mean having, patriotic feelings towards the modern state of Israel, I'm a non-Zionist. And if by Zionist you mean Jew, which the vast majority of anti-Zionists, that is precisely what they mean, I'm a Zionist because I'm Jewish. There's no getting, if you want to deny it, go ahead and deny it. But it's certainly not.
Right. We're both Zionists in that respect. We just have a different definition of what a Jew is.
Oh no! Please tell me you're not doing the Pete thing. Oh my God! I swear I have never met somebody who's an avowed Christian who hates Jesus as much as Pete does. It's just shocking.
No, I'm not doing that thing. I'm just saying that the Jew of the heart, true Israel sort of idea. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Question to ponder. We actually have a female here. Hello.
Jacob, how are you? Great live. You got Gavin to stop by.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Randos. Hey, Hezzy. So it's been fun. I will be very honest with you. Maybe how I grew up, but how do I say this without being offensive? I was never allowed to be around Protestants. My aunt, like a large portion of my extended family are Presby. They're Presbyterian. I didn't even know that my aunt was Presbyterian until I went to an event at her, church. Yeah, she became an elder, what they refer to. But I guess because I don't think I told you that, Jacob. I was raised very pro Vatican, very, very Catholic. I never even went to public school. And um, my parents had 5 kids in Catholic education, 20 years nonstop. So I didn't realize how, I guess, secluded and exclusive Catholicism is. Catholics really do not, how do I say, like integrate with Protestants. Not that Catholics are against Protestants, but there is no King James Bible, not even allowed, and like no like Protestant camp or literature. Like I actually got in trouble for using like I thought, oh, it's just Christian, like a Christian periodical, and I got in trouble for that because I was told if it directly says Christian, then it's going to be Protestant. It must say specifically Catholic. So I just kind of noticed that like the or I guess the Ortho Bros and the other Protestant denominations, they seem to do more together. But even in like Catholic YouTube space, it is very separate. And if a Catholic is going to integrate with anyone else, they may chat with like another Orthodox very rarely, or maybe someone I see more like with a Jew, with someone who's Jewish, but not so much with the other denominations unless there's like a debate of sorts. But to like chat like this, like on your panel, no, no. And I think I'm the only Catholic here ever like the like Catholic YouTube is the algo is only for Catholic YouTube, which I wouldn't say is a bad thing. I just find it very interesting. Like I never even hearing your space, which was a great live today and the other day, you just never see like Catholic people with anyone else. But I don't see that as a bad thing. I just find it interesting.
Well, so
Yeah.
I mean, I did bring up Father Eric. He has been very involved, and look, that the Catholic Church has 1 billion members, so there
Right.
is a very large range. But we do have our Catholic contingent, and frankly, one of the reasons that I feel I'm a schismatic from the TLC is the TLC seems very Protestant, and the fact that there's so many Eastern Orthodox, I think, is partially related to how allergic so many of the Protestants are to the Roman Catholic Church. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of them would have ended up in the Roman Catholic Church if not for that type of allergy.
Well, I mean, you have to think about their confessions and what they say.
Yeah.
I mean, they come out of the medieval Catholic tradition, and then they axe grind against that, right? I mean, the Eastern Orthodox position is like relatively new on the scene.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it for most of my life.
So surprised to see so many EO. When I was growing up, I was told that Eastern Orthodox are the left lung and that they were Catholic. That's what I was literally told.
That's what the Catholics want. I believe the
That's an
Catholics
ecumenist.
yeah, they're very ecumenist that way. Many Orthodox are not, depending on who you
The
talk
Catholics
to. But
are
generally, Catholics are very universal that way, which is interesting. I mean, I think I've even heard Catholics go so far as to say the sacraments count, from the East, whereas the other way not so much.
Correct. Yep.
Like,
I believe that's actually doctrine. Yeah.
Anglican Church, I believe, has sacraments, but they are Protestant, and even there, King Charles did meet with the Pope recently, and the gathering with rabbis and with the Eastern Orthodox Church, but never. I'm just with like a Protestant, no. But even if it was another Protestant denomination, it would have to be someone mainline, because now it's gotten too divided that oh, I mean, not to be offensive, but just being honest, like you can just become a pastor like online, or like an online
Yeah, I
seminary.
mean, you
That's
kind of revealed the
crazy,
cards when you said a woman became an elder. So like that's Protestantism in a nutshell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like they're already pushing back on having female altar servers. Like I was an altar server when I was young, and I think it was great to help me stay within the church. But now it is becoming even more traditionalist. Like they don't even want like altar servers, just returning to altar boys, which you know, all
That
good, all good.
that post is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I
I found it. Let me read it and then feel free to respond, Bruce.
You want me to read it? I love reading.
Go right ahead.
Ironically, it's
Stephen DeYoung's.
That's right, Stephen DeYoung's Reformed Seminarian Roots, Westminster, coming out in that clip, not his Orthodox priesthood. Did Saint Seraphim of Sarov know Aramaic? Saint Sergius of Rodoniza have to learn Hebrew or Greek to have compelling views on the Bible. But a Dutchman with rigorous academic heritage in A&E studies is going to pull an original language card. I admire it. People are taking a shot at the king because he's a Tucker guest. Tucker. But beneath those robes is a well-seasoned student of Western higher education. Didn't get in the ring with hybrid creatures like Father Stephen DeYoung. You're not ready for it.
This
Hybrid.
is like this is this reform guy trying to like somehow like wrap arms around Father Stephen DeYoung for his scholastic abilities and then point at the idea that the Reformed tradition is the most rigorous scholastically, and somehow the priesthood of Orthodox priests are these mystical, non-read, sort of less than rigorous academics, which I think is kind of nuts. If you look at like that's what made me Orthodox is their rigor and their knowledge of language and theology and history. Like that's such a wild take, and I hear that a lot from people. Like
so, if you've seen my series, Why is Protestant Theology So Bad? The TLDR of that entire series is no matter how smart you are, you're never going to be able to contend with thousands of people over thousands of years, and actually probably millions, if not billions, of people over thousands of years. And so it's example after example. Mike Winger is incredibly smart. Sure. I was going to do James White, incredibly smart. Sure. Paul Vanderklay, Doug Wilson, very, very smart. And individually, they may have a capacity to address things more than other people individually. But when you're dealing with an entire tradition that's been developed over thousands of years by billions of people, you are going to build a cathedral that no individual can. And that's what makes Protestantism so prone to being so wrong, despite people trying so hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nice that he was willing to give some credit to him for sure. I think that's cool, but like, I do think it's almost a backhanded compliment as far as I see it.
That was so nice, Jacob. Thank you. Understanding tradition. I actually was just watching something right before your live, where he's now he's a theologian, a Catholic theologian. He was a Calvinist pastor, and one thing that always bothered him is that with Protestantism, all it really takes is just like a Bible scholar to like append like tradition and works. Like someone can just kind of like have it. Like remember, you had like the synod, the CRC synod, and you mentioned it, and he said that someone can kind of just come in and make a claim. Oh, for the past 2,000 years, we were wrong. This is how you do it. Like any individual can just come in and append, just like pull the rug. Oh, we were wrong then, but we're right now. And he was just like, wait a minute, like who are you to interpret? Like where did this come from? All this like back and forth interpretation, it was just like a headache. And that even happened with the Methodists. Like there were a group of Methodist pastors who wanted to like change what John Wesley had said. And there were actually like a group of Africans who were like, no, we're going to follow Wesley. Where did you come from to just change your mind? and out of nowhere. And I just find it very interesting that a non-American group really pushed back and said, no, we're going to continue what has been with the Methodist Church, John Wesley. We shall continue. You do whatever you want to do. Like it's
Okay,
just
I am going to be wrapping this stream up, but I want to talk to Bruce for as long as I have him. So Olson, you jumped on. You must have had something to say. And then I'm pretty much gonna dump everybody else because I have questions to ask Bruce. So Olson,
Yeah, I've got a few minutes until people show up to the lounge. So
Okay.
make it quick.
As one does. Always have questions to ask Bruce. Yeah. Nice to meet you, Bruce.
Hey, you too, also.
So I was gonna say, Lance, I appreciated Lance's thing he did, conversation he had with Mark. That was pretty cool. And somebody else was on here I was gonna shout out to and say thank you to. And I disagree with your take on Mormon nicety, but that could be a conversation for later. All right,
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for jumping on, Bruce.
Jacob,
you have to tell me, how did this happen? Like, how long has this been happening? Like,
I kind of talked about it on the stream that we did.
You did, but like,
so like, I've been dealing with the Orthodox polemics forever, right? Like as a Reformed guy, and I made the move to Presbyterianism a year ago, after crazy Reformed Baptist world, which was like just a mess. And that seemed like fine. Like it made, like as I had been kind of Presbyterian anyway, living in the Reformed Baptist world, because they're, you know what I mean? Like from my covenant theology. While I was in the Reformed Baptist world, I had like this Marian sort of epiphany that didn't really take hold. I actually talked to Father Eric, believe it or not. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like I had this affection for Mary out of nowhere. Like, I don't know what to do with this. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. Become Catholic? Like, I don't know. And I was like, fair enough. Like, like that's a fair response from a priest of, Roman Catholic priest. So I didn't really do much with it other than like just dig more into like the position on Mary from the Reformed positions. And like I had read the Institutes and some of Luther's work. And it was obvious, and I for a long time I was like, John Knox was kind of right? Like there's this story of him throwing an icon of Mary into the sea, right? As he was a galley slave. And it was like, man, that guy's awesome, right? But also like, I couldn't deny this sort of archetypical position that Mary had, and then also like the theology from the Mother of God, right? And so you start really thinking about that. But then like 6 months ago, I really started to maybe 5 or 6 months ago, I really started to dig into like the hypostatic union and Christology. And I was like asking these questions and doing a lot of work and research. And I don't know, one day, like I was just listening to Jay Dyer, of all people. I'd listened to him a lot before, talked to him, debated with him, you know what I mean? Like called me in the story and I was pretty angry, and I don't know what happened. I was just like, my eyes welled up and my heart got big after I was listening to him. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say. Like I can't describe. I was like, man, this makes sense. Like, what am I like? I felt odd because I was like, man, this makes a lot of sense. Because of the Christology that I'd been dealing with, like things around the hypostatic union. Like that's not really well described in the same sense in the West, because what I was dealing with was this like original sin position. Right? And I was like, okay, so the way we get around the idea that Jesus takes on a sinless nature, which is this idea that the seed of God goes into Mary and the seed of Adam is the head, like the person that gives us the original sin because it's his seed. So if it's God's seed, well, he doesn't have that. So then Jesus takes on that nature without sin, right? So then I'm kind of debating that. I'm like, wait, that's like a third category. Or a second category. It's like a different nature. That's not our nature. That's a different one. Yeah. And that was like in my head. I was like, I can't get this out. And I understand how they describe it, but it only makes sense if you think that ancestral sin's not real or original sin's real. And in that sense, like it still creates another category. And so I'm like, I don't understand how Christ takes on Adam as the new Adam if he's taking on a different nature?
Right.
Right. So that was a big problem for me.
Mm.
And, I read Cyril of Jerusalem, of Alexandria, and his Christological controversy. I started reading some Palamas. And then I started doing some work on the triads. And then also the monarchical trinity, which is makes a little more sense to me because there's this dyad that occurs if you do the filioque position, which I think, allegorically speaking, the world is patriarchal. And so that makes sense to me from a Trinitarian position. The Father is the source, right? The Father is the head in that sense, eternally united, but he is the source of the Son and the Spirit. So all of that really, and there's really no place to go than Eastern Orthodoxy, but that was after I'd had sort of an epiphany, so I really started digging in more, and I was like, I think this is true. And then the authority thing starts coming in, and I'm doing this kind of PCA thing, right? And I'm like, man, this PCA is a mess, the Presbyterian PCA. I'm like, there's a lot of problems here. And at the same time, I'm like, well, I agree that you have to submit to authority, and I do want to submit to my authority. And I was like, the Presbyterians have this hierarchy. But then I heard Father Deacon Ananias talk about this a little bit. And he said, well, the Presbyterians have this concept of authority like a company, right? And while they have authority to get rid of you from that company, you can just go to another company. That's not real authority. The authority the Orthodox Church is talking about is that of a country. And if you commit a felony in one state and you go to another state, you're still a felon, right? So that made a lot of sense to me. And then also I started thinking about how do I interpret this Christology? Am I doing this from what tradition? You can't escape tradition when you're doing interpretation. So then I was like, well, let me start doing this work. And for a little bit there, I was like, maybe I'm an Augustinian, an Augustine Orthodox. He's a saint in the Orthodox Church. He has his own positions. Maybe I can be all those. I can be Eastern, but Augustinian. But honestly, more and more thinking about that is well, they, as an authoritative body, accept some of his doctrines and not all of them. And who am I to become the new Augustine?
Right.
So that's kind of been the road.
Mm. So did you grow up Reformed Baptist or Baptist or?
No, I was actually christened as a baby Catholic because my family's Italian.
Okay.
But we kind of went back and forth to different churches as a kid. My family, my mother's side was never very religious. My grandmother took me to church sometimes. My father married a woman who went to a Methodist church. I started going there. I was in the choir in the Methodist church. I sang, I was a musician. And then when I got to college, I was doing work with Baptist churches, right? Lots of music. I'm a musician, so I was playing guitar, And I got baptized in college at a non-denominational church.
Okay.
And my wife and I went there forever. And we moved to the West, to Seattle, also non-denom, evangelical. Really started digging more into theology, basically standard road. We're going to take the Bible seriously. Okay, Reform makes sense. If you're going to be sola scriptura, this is where you should be. So I ended up in Reformed Baptist camp because I was taking with me the Credo Baptist sort of commitments.
Mm-hmm.
And then after doing that work, I'm like, well, covenant theology, okay. So now it seems like the Reformed Baptists are grafting on this credo onto covenant theology. And that led me into, Presbyterianism and now Orthodoxy.
So what led you to get baptized in college?
Well, I'd never had a credo confession. So I just sort of, I don't know, you're in that world, you're in the non-denominational world, you're making confession of faith, you see baptisms, you believe that, you want to confess and believe as a testament to what you believe in front of people. To sort of join the body as an official statement. It's kind of how it seems. And also, I think it's also my wife had that feeling too, because she was baptized Presbyterian. And later on, she had this similar conviction, I want to be baptized by my confession, right? So there's this idea that you want to make it known that you do believe And if I do, I need to be baptized. And that was kind of like the position that we had taken, like this sort of propositional position. You need to confess and be baptized. Like that was kind of the position. So that's why that's why we're baptized in that world.
So over the past couple of years, when you went from Baptist to Reformed Baptist to now being a catechumen,
I'm not a catechumen. No.
Oh, you're not a catechumen yet.
No, I'm
Okay.
still working it out. My wife's,
Okay.
it's not an easy transition.
Are you going to church still, or what are you doing? Which you go to an Eastern Orthodox church, or?
So I'm still we're still working that out. I've been to the Antiochian church a few times.
Okay.
I've been to the Greek church. Sorry, not Greek, OCA. We're still in between. Like we have some commitments at the Presbyterian Church. I want to make it official with my elders. I've spoken to my pastor. Then we'll make the proper move at some point here. But
that's what I was wondering. Like, well, how it's been working. I mean, you were an elder. I guess you're not an elder anymore.
No, I wasn't an elder in the Presbyterian Church. No,
Oh,
I was the
okay.
Reformed Baptist. Yeah, I actually baptized my son, my oldest.
Okay.
When I was an elder, my children were baptized in the Presbyterian Church as soon as we came in.
Okay.
So, my other children, my younger ones. So it's just obviously tough for my wife because there's a lot of commitment she's had. She's just as reformed as I was, like maybe more. Yeah, I don't know. So it's the transitions there, right? But at this point, like I can't imagine being convinced otherwise. There's too many things that I find problematic. So, we're on the road, as it were.
But are you? I mean, I'm just wondering, as like the process, like, are they offering to meet with you to discuss it?
Yeah, the elders want to. Like the pastors met with me. The elders want to meet with me. I'm going to meet with them. I don't want to have a debate session. I mean, I could do it. Just be like, how do you know Matthew wrote the book of Matthew? And just go down that road, right? Like, let's just do it, or let's go down the authority road. But I'm not going to do that. Just going to tell them where I'm at and be like, we're, like I said, I've already met with one of the elders and pastor. And so, that's typical response. Like, we don't really believe that, that the pastor has problems with iconography or intercession of the saints, or, doesn't believe the early church was an episcopate, right? He thinks it was Presbyterian, pretty standard stuff. And that's really, where we're at. That's the transition though. So I can't say I'm Orthodox at this point, right? Like Orthodox of the heart maybe, but I'm not in the church. So at this point, I'm, anathema to all the traditions until I get received, right? So, or what do they say, chrismated? But that's
well,
where,
I mean,
that's where
so in Judaism, we would say that a crushed heart, a broken heart, is actually what God really wants is, and so I mean,
that's what Protestants say too.
Of preaching at you, the word Hebrew means to cross over, right?
Right.
And that journey that Abraham takes from the place that he was born, the house of his father, to the land that God shows him, like that's the real. I mean, that is the journey of faith. That is the road, right? So we refer to our religion as halacha, as walking, right? And that walking,
so like
with
the way,
God.
right?
Yeah. And so as far as I am concerned, I listen to a lot of James White, and
me too.
I respect the man, but every time he says, I have been preaching the same thing for 50 years, I think to myself, really, James? Like, I pride myself in the fact that my beliefs, my beliefs, I'm about to turn 49, right? And my beliefs at 49 hopefully will not be what they were at 30. I know they won't be what they were at 39, at 29, certainly at 19 and at 9, right? So I hope that if I get to 59 and 69 and 79 that I am going to grow in my faith and walk in my faith and be further ahead on that road towards God, because it's about the journey, not the destination, because God is infinite, you know?
Right. Well, you have to understand that, like, in the Protestant polemics, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but like, they take this position that if you are changing, you're being swayed too often, right? So there's this sort of like cemented nature they expect out of their believing members, which is this: if you're swayed by every wind of doctrine, that's a bad thing. Like, that's kind of they take that verse to mean changing traditions or growing in faith should not be one of doctrinal change like that. It should be one of sanctification, meaning you get stronger in the position you currently hold in some sense. Now, they wouldn't say it that way, but that's basically what they mean.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to see somebody applaud the move to, let's say, deeper covenantal theology, right? They'll say, well, you've moved too many times. Right, like that's how they would say it. So but I do know what you mean. Like, there's a maturity that you would expect out of someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of been the situation for me. It is hard, though. Don't get me wrong. Like, recapitulation theory, or Christus Victor as the mainline position on the cross, atonement not really being atonement in the way that we'll say that Tyndale created it. Is not easy to slough off. It's not easy to move off, because now you have to kind of re-understand the sacrifice on the cross for you and for the covenant community at large, and how that's different than like a substitution for the sin you deserve individually. That's really hard. So you have to get out of this like individual mindset, which it's like the categories are totally different. That's a tough one. It's probably the hardest for my wife as well, honestly. That's probably the biggest one. Because in that world, there's like a sense in which you're very comfortable with like kind of an assurance that you've given yourself based on imputation and sacrifice. And so, like, while they may read the Old Testament and understand the scapegoat isn't the one slaughtered, that's not how they frame it.
Yeah.
Right? So Jesus is that slaughtered lamb.
Yeah.
And that's how they see it. So, it's difficult to move.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're a Jew, so like you don't really have the same problem, but
so I have to say there's definitely I was watching a video where they were talking about folk orthodoxy versus actual orthodoxy. And he was right in that there's always folk religion, right?
Yep.
And unfortunately, wherever you go, I think you do see it, and I've certainly seen it in the Orthodox Jewish community. There's a lot of people who have superstition. I would say their views are very superstitious, and the view of the like, as much as I would, and I do say that Isaiah is a refutation of Christianity, I really do believe that. Isaiah 1 and 2 say simple things that I think very few people in general, including within Orthodox Judaism, comprehend. When God, like, it's a shocking thing when God says, who asked you to trample my courts? Right? It's like, well, you did. Right? Like, if I'm bringing my sacrifices, like, what are you saying to me?
Mm-hmm.
And
so I mean, you're still seeing that as like this future messianic age, right?
Actually, no. I see Isaiah more as I see. So this is the thing. As a Jew, I look to the prophets more as this is how we live in exile,
So
then
do you see yourself in Babylon right now?
yes, very much.
Yeah. Okay. So it's it's really interesting. That was always a problem of mine in the Baptist world, because they do too. I don't know if you've heard that before.
Not really, no.
So like
Maybe.
I can't say most, like it's probably not fair, but many Christians believe that they are the remnant in Babylon. Like they are like you.
Yeah.
That's how they see themselves. That's a big problem for me. Like I find
Really?
that to be, yeah, dude, I think that's wild. I never, ever saw that. I kind of understood it, but I was like, dude, this isn't Babylon. Like, I've also been like,
Really? I mean,
real-
you look around and you don't see Babel?
No, I don't. But I'm like, maybe I got to slough off the post millennial stuff too. But like, I have a real love for the world as it, like the progress that has occurred post Christ, his resurrection, what that did to the world, the light shone over all the earth, and how that changed. And that's also probably why Orthodoxy is so appealing to me. Like that taking on of humanity and changing the world literally, in my opinion, puts us in the post millennial age. It's how I see it. So like, there's this like culmination as the world continues to grow, be sanctified in a theosis sort of state. It's not universalism, but like the world is getting made right. And I don't see that as like stuck in exile. I see that as like being brought through into the promised land. And we are like we're not in exile. We're right. Like we're tilling the land to make it, like as the means by which God might bring New Eden.
Well, I mean, Exodus, I would say, yes, we've been taken out of Egypt, but we have yet to arrive at the promised land. That's, yeah.
Right. And so I sort of see like the promised land as this like, it's a type of sorts, and the promised land in a sense is the king of the land now is Christ, and that land is his, it's promised. So that's kind of how I see that. Now I know like Orthodox folks or other people like really put it later, and that but there's a sense in which I fit somewhere in there. But man, that remnant theology and that like Babylon position to me is like the most pessimistic Christian. Now for a Jew I could maybe see it, but for a Christian I find that to be rough, dude, because they basically, I find them like polishing brass on a sinking ship kind of people. It's like, okay, like we're stuck here. I don't see that at all. I see that we are like being delivered and made right. And the king's on the throne, so we're not waiting for that promise. It's there. But that's a Christian position, so I understand why you wouldn't see that. But
yeah,
I sound like a prosperity preacher or something. But
I mean, I would say partial preterist.
For sure, yeah. But that's the Orthodox position too.
Is it?
Yeah, they're partial preterists. They've always been.
Speak of the Father Eric.
Oh, hey, Father Eric. He was helpful, actually.
Father Eric is helpful. Like I have. Oh, and there's Matt C. This is going to be my most popular video ever.
Sorry, Matt. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus earlier with that. That did seem like a backhanded compliment to Father Stephen Young. I'm sorry.
I don't think it was backhand. It was. I was surprised he would do that compliment at all.
Well, fair enough. I don't know. Yeah. It's surprising to me how many people I found in the U.S. that are former Reformed or former, we'll say Reformed-ish tradition that made the Orthodox move, and it makes some sense to me. I'll say this: when you say semper reformanda, right? Now, always reforming. It's like, why would you be upset that I reformed back to the early church? Like I'm just trying to interpret the Bible with the proper lens. Like now that leads me to the early church. You know what I mean? Like, so it's really interesting.
I mean, even PVK is constantly saying at some point the protest has to end.
Well, I've heard that before, but like to be fair, that was placed upon the Protestants, right? Like they didn't say that. The Anabaptists did.
Right, but at some point this was one of the things that Father Eric, he's pointed out multiple times. He's like, okay, look at the fights that they were having 500 years ago. Like, you won. You basically won.
You mean the Protestants?
Yeah. Like the big
what's the prize? Ecumenism?
Like
what's you know what I mean? Like, what's the prize? What's the prize? Gay America? Like, I'm trying to understand, like, what the prize is. You know,
that's the thing. I don't think Calvin or Martin Luther, and I'm the last person to defend either one of them.
Sure.
They weren't ecumenists, and they certainly weren't. They weren't the arguments they had about the church at their time, right? Father Eric says, but you got us to read the Bible and have liturgy in the vernacular, right?
I think so, but like I was reading about Father Herman of Alaska who did that work. To them, like they translated that. Like the Orthodox had been translating the liturgy in other languages for quite a while, from what I understand. So, I mean, they even created Church Slavonic for that reason, in my understanding as well. So, like, this is me kind of like starting to, take on the Orthodox polemics a little bit, but like, it does seem like the Protestants get a lot of credit for that, whereas the Orthodox were absolutely doing that work. Now the Catholics get a lot of credit too for like bringing Latin to the world, and like, God bless them, right? Like, stop the sacrifices. It's awesome. But I don't think the Orthodox get enough credit for that work, But yeah, that's really funny that the protest has to stop. Like, what? I don't know that people are protesting. Like, I don't know that Protestants know that they're protesting. Like, they're not. Like, I don't know what they're. It depends. Like, it's folk religion, like you said. Like, I think they've adopted the religion of their grandmother, who went to church with a Bible in her hand. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. No, there's definitely a lot of folk religion out there, and wherever you go. I mean, this is one of the things. Like, wherever you go, you're going to discover to your eternal disappointment that all of the people there are human beings.
Yeah, right. Well, that was actually the polemic told to me a lot when I was first like introduced to EO and really introduced to the polemics against it, like probably 6-7 years ago. And it was like, dude, most of these Orthodox countries are just folk religion. And I was like, yeah. But now that I think about it, it's like, so are we.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you mean? Have you seen these people? Have you been to the Bible Belt? Like, what is that?
Yeah. I mean, look, Moses comes down off the mountain, and he's like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, that is absolutely how I feel.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got people coming here. Thanks, Jacob, for letting me take up all your time on your channel.
Oh, I'm so glad you did this. Okay, people. Yeah, I have to go too. Pray for Lucky if you're the type to pray for animals, because he needs it. Bye, people. I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed, because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian, and I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too
Isn't
far.
there a proverb that says something like, don't answer a fool according to his folly?
But there's a proverb that says, answer a fool according to his folly.
There is.
Exactly right. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The